Welcome back, everyone, to the night shift. Shift 46 underway, heading into the EU Money Match. ZP here with Jason Kaplan. And Jason, time's been good. The Abrahams winning both R1 and last week's night shift. This is a team on the rise as, realistically, of all the teams in EU, they've taken the best to the new changes of the patches.
Mr. ZP, I don't want to be the negative Nancy here, but I feel like there is an asterisk on their win yesterday. Because it was like a big change patch, and it was the fact that Buff and Jors were not playing with their full six. They had Dimov subbing in, and Dimov and Hoot play kind of different roles in the team. Not to say the Abrahams weren't great last week for sure. Obviously went the full three, and they did close it out. But if they win now, then I'll be convinced. When it's the meta set a little bit, Hoot's back in the roster. But yeah, I don't know. I want to take that win last week with a grain of salt. It obviously wasn't easy, but I want to see if they can do it yet again here to really push Buff and Jors to the brink and maybe make Buff and Jors adapt once again going forward.
And I mean, Buff and Jors probably have already had some adaptations where I think back to, the map 3 and who was playing what. It's probably going to be considerably different. I don't know if they actually have 7 on the menu this week. Not that I think 7 was necessarily the reason why they lost or anything like that, but, they had Cosmetical Shiv, they had the fill for Hoot and they had Listic Drifter. But, even just looking at the last game for how Buff and Jors reset their lineup, their approach today would likely be very different. But, to take a look at how we got here, this is the bracket of today. Well, if you're just tuning in right now, we saw Buff and Jors take down Leviathan, who got in over Silence, which was basically a mix of Sneaky Team and Oblivion, as the EU teams continue to churn a little bit in wake of R1. And of course, it brings us to our grand final of Abrahams versus Buff and Jors. Looking forward to the rest of the day, though. We'll see if FPS Lounge can get on back on top of the mountain, getting through perhaps Get Candy, who got through qualifiers, Jason, where they've made a few attempts, but this time around, they got there.
I mean, they have to win. Like they have to win. It's a freak. Is it a pug with a lollipop and was that a dunce cap? Not like a dunce cap. It's like one of those helicopter hats. Like that is the most adorable logo I've ever seen.
Yeah, and look, it's a little bit different. Where, by the way, even the FPS Lounge logo, you'll never not be able to tell me that is not a polar bear. I know it's not a polar bear, but I still look at it for distances. It's like, nah.
Okay, can we get a zoom in on the FPS Lounge logo here? Because I only see capybara. I'm curious.
No, that is a capybara.
How do you see it as a polar bear?
That's just how it always looks at a distance.
I can see it. Are the sunglasses the eyes? No, wait.
Like, years and years of marketing by Coca-Cola just really did me in. But we're going to move on and talk about the rosters moving ahead here. And of course, we got to talk about the Abrahams roster. Yeah, we take a for cuteness. But for Abrahams, generally speaking, one of the more consistent teams in EU as far as rosters go. Once they locked in this current iteration with Arzo and Empty Dreams, it's kind of been smooth sailing from here on out. Of course, Arzo and Bobby came in to replace Hoot and Dimov, and then Bobby was out, and then Empty Dreams in, and it's been solid. They also made a change on the back end where they have Play With Me now working as coach, where Play With Me used to be a mainstay in the competitive Deadlock scene, then turned streamer, now is working as a coach, replaced Parzival, who is now, I believe, coaching Silence. And whatever the reason may be, Abrahams has seemingly got into a better groove here and kind of gotten out of the rut where they were just losing to Buff and Jors week in and week out for it felt like 2 months in a row, Jason.
Yeah, for a very long time. And honestly, I was kind of sad because last week you did hint that we might be seeing at Play With Me participating, or was it 2 weeks ago? But then I can't remember, man. Last week's show was crazy long. Play With Me was going to be playing, that Empty Dreams was going to come in later on in the series, but then he ended up not playing. I was so excited to see what Play With Me might be able to do. But yeah, this roster, man, I think honestly we talk a lot about Empty Dreams, we talk about Task Saint. I think Sonya has been one of the most important players in this team, actually, because he used to be the M1 carry, but he's flexed to so many different roles now within this team. And he's been flexed to so many different heroes. I mean, for me, he is the Russian Hoot. I mean, they obviously look extremely similar as well. But he has become such a staple player and such a needed player in this roster to facilitate the comps that they want to run.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing we've seen with Deadlock rosters is that if you're not able to have flexibility within your role, unless you're the very top of your role, generally speaking, it's difficult to keep your spot on the team. Some exceptions here and there. You look to melee creeps. John Jones is like, hey, I just M1, and, you know, he's been fine. But overall, the flexibility definitely helps and certainly has been a boon to Abrahams. But looking to the opposition once more, looking at Buff Enjoyers, where they are back to normal this week, where once more, I make the request, can we get Obakim shifted over to Apollo, where Obakim's Apollo has been played so often that was actually a mid-stage ban in our first game. And while, hey, Obakim made the Drifter look really, really good, I still think, Jason, if Apollo wasn't banned, it may have been Obakim on the Apollo once more. So, but, you know, on the same note, it kind of goes to show, even if you have someone that's been kind of one-tricking a little bit in recent times, it doesn't mean that they don't have versatility to swap to something else and be very impactful.
You know, eventually we're going to get this set up to be the player cosplaying as the hero that they most play. And then this whole screen's going to look so much nicer for sure. I think Obakim is yeah, like as you're talking about, like Apollo in the last game we got to see as well on Drifter, he's definitely been allowed to flex out into a lot of different heroes. And the funny thing is, I remember hearing way back when is that he wasn't a player that was improving, that he felt like he hit his limits and he just couldn't get better. But I feel like there's maybe like some sort of brick wall that he eventually did break through, because he's been a massive asset to the team. No longer playing that like full-on support, playing like Kelvins, playing like Vindictas. He has been allowed to flex out as the meta has shifted, and he's done stupendously. Like he's been phenomenal, and it's really cool to see that the self-imposed limits that Obakim thought he had were really just self-imposed and really not real. They were not existent, and he was able to break through and continue to improve as a player.
The limits never existed at all. Obakim has ascended. But I mean, hey, look, after the last performance and, you know, recent history, who can argue? But Jason, we got to get into our draft that hopefully is about to be ready here. We've given the teams a little bit of time. Is the draft good to go? It's that moment here where I actually don't know, Jason. You don't know. Like, none of us know. We just...
Oh, I know.
Production knows.
I know that production knows. And what production knows is that it is not ready because we've not headed into it. So we can talk about maybe some other things, ZP. Actually, it is ready.
Wait.
And they saved me because I was about to talk about something that maybe I shouldn't talk about, or maybe I should have. Who knows? We'll find out. As the band's going to be coming on through, Buff Enjoyers, Abrahams will be choosing to get the second pick, allowing Buff Enjoyers to have first pick. And again, I'm looking towards, like, are we going to see an early Shiv ban? Do you think Buff Enjoyers will go Billy over a Shiv if they can get it as a first pick, or do you think they're still committed to like a Mirage?
I think you go Billy. Like, all the scrim data still kind of shows that if Billy gets through, you pick it. If Pocket gets through, you pick it. There's not really a lot to go against that. Even though I do think, you know, getting Shiv away from Together is pretty high value, and arguably you could justify going the Shiv a little bit earlier. But okay, the Inferno. This is interesting because now this is interesting because it means that Abraham is guaranteed one of either Billy or Pocket, and Buff Enjoyers, you have no way of giving up, you know, what's effectively going to be like potentially a Pocket Shiv. We'll see, but
they don't care about Pocket, though, remember?
Yeah,
they're the only team who just does not care about a Pocket first pick, because they are one of the few teams out there who can play around a Pocket Affliction and just be kind of mindful of when it's coming in. So they still go for the Mirage, which means Abraham's, Pocket Shiv, ZP, like that is a disgusting combo if they go that route. Like, Affliction into Killing Blow, that's a one fight if you can land it.
I think after the last thing here, okay, again, Scrim Day would suggest you go Billy, and getting Pocket Billy is like unreal value, but recent performance, especially seeing listed on the Shiv, I think your Abrahams are real tempted to take the Shiv instead. But instead you go Viscous. They take the Viscous away from Break, and now, okay, for Buff Enjoyers, you have to kind of adapt a little bit on who's playing what, but you could legitimately go Billy Shiv. It'd have like an outrageous front line.
Hear me out. Kelvin Shiv. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Do they go?
Can you grow up the sideburns like Shiv? Just to quickly bring it back to our discussing before about cosplaying.
It's possible. I mean, they can't. They just kind of grow. Like they get to a point where it's like, good God, I need to get them chopped. Like if I left alone for a long time, it'd be doable. But okay, they just go Billy Shiv, and okay, you've given up the Pocket, but the front line for Buff Enjoyers here is frankly terrifying, Jason.
As a last distracting comment, how many subs would it take for you to just grow out your beard? Because I've always seen you with like the mustache and like this, but I've never seen you like try to grow out everything else.
I can't. I literally cannot.
Okay.
This is my cap right here, pretty much.
I feel your pain, brother. My sides don't grow at all. So, all right. Yeah. So yeah, the Billy Shiv, as we were talking about before, that is gonna be deadly, man. Like also the fact that you can chain gang into a Dust Devil and knock them up, like there is a lot of potential. Also, I mean, the slice and dice through a chain gang too, that is a lot of damage. But Abrahams have responded, as you mentioned, with Viscous and with Holiday now. So they have a lot of pick. They have sustainability. Like they have survivability as well with the Viscous. This is already a pretty strong comp of Abrahams. And then we've seen Apollo towards Obi-Kim, and then Buffalo's ban Drifter. Maybe it was going to be Sonya playing Drifter potentially, but I think he's going to be playing, well, I thought the Holiday, but
well, this is interesting because I thought they would angle the maybe put Obi-Kim on Drifter again because the Apollo is gone. Obi-Kim's not going to be able to play that. The Geist is going to get picked up. I mean, Geist getting, in terms of who's playing what, this feels like a Billy or a Listic on Billy cosmetical on Shiv angle here. But, you know, do we see the return of something like an Obi-Kim Holiday in this case? There's no Infernus either. Like, Obi-Kim's hero pool has been viciously targeted in terms of bans. Like, you assume Vrake goes on the Calico, but possibly.
I mean, yeah, Holiday's already been picked, so he can't go for that.
Yeah,
like so the Drifter and the Apollo. I mean, Paradox is still an option.
The city could use some new blood.
Oh my god, I keep forgetting that we have that.
I can't believe that's animated on top of it. But okay, now this is kind of interesting because normally you would expect Cosmetical to be playing the Mina if it's getting played. But in terms of who's playing what, that kind of makes you wonder who's going to be on the Shiv. I'm trying to remember if we've seen Obi-Kim play a Mina at some point. I think that actually may have been a thing. Otherwise, Abraham.
I know D-Mob played it last week when Buff and Joyers played it.
Could be Hoot.
I know, this is kind of wild. Saint going to be on the Abrams most likely. The Lash to round. I mean, the Lash to set up the pocket ultimate, or at least to bait out the counter spells. That's also a good option.
Yeah.
Gordon? No. But maybe? It could be Zergy Mina, but I don't. We'll find out. We'll see here.
No, probably Zergy Venator. Venator isn't. Although I'm trying to hang on. Let me look back at this. Cosmetical also. There's a game in scrims where it was Zergy Mirage Cosmetical Venator. Just to be clear. So it may be Cosmetical.
Who's going to be on Mina?
It may be Hoot on Mina. I mean, Hoot has been more on flyer to flyer adjacent heroes as of late, so that kind of makes sense. I think the one thing you could take to the bank here is that it is probably going to be Vrake on the Calico. I think it's going to be Zergy Mirage, Vrake on Calico, and those things are sure. I think the other things are a little bit up in the air.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I say it every time, man, and I get kind of tired of saying it, but that's, again, one of the advantages of Buff and Joy is that you really could float around all these individual roles, but then maybe we should focus on Abraham's in particular here, because obviously when it comes to Pocket, we think Empty Dreams for sure. When it comes to Holiday, I want to assume it's going to be Tass. And then the thing is, I'm not sure, because I think I believe Sonya did play Holiday before and Tass played Viscous. And then Arzo on Geist. And together on Lash. Like that's kind of what I'm imagining that we're going to see here, but I'm honestly still not sold on this.
Well, let's go down a different road here and, you know, just kind of talk about how we expect these comps to play out. I think obviously for Buff enjoyers, you take a look at it, you have a pretty scary front line, like certainly scarier than what you have for Abrams. Abrams are basically, you know, clutching a lot on Abrams make space with hopefully Geist is ahead of the game. However, in terms of team fights, you have the omnipresent threat of Pocket, who is deadly until you have Divine Barriers come into play. So a lot of fights can be, you know, won or lost by virtue of what did the Pocket do. And you have pretty high pick potential with the Holiday and pretty reasonable ways of dealing with picks with the Viscous itself. You know, thinking about how this goes down, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that the Abrahams draft actually does pretty well, but I think for Abrahams, when they do get into the team fight, they're pretty reliant on landing a big affliction, and outside of team fights, like they need the Holiday to actually generate picks here and there. I think if they go into an even fight against Buff Enjoyers, comp to comp, the Buff Enjoyers comp is probably a bit stronger, but I mean, there are ways for Abrahams to kind of play this to their advantage.
It's kind of, it almost looks like they're reversed a bit. Like I could see Buffingers running the Abraham's comp, and Abraham's running the Buffingers comp quite often in my head. But yeah, I think like it feels like you're banking on a big affliction to set up a fight. Like I know Saints are very good Abrams. I know Arzo can be a very good Geist. They have the pick potential out of Holiday, but if you can't pull off that pick potential and a big affliction can't hit, I just don't see you winning team fights as Abrahams. And that's kind of what I worry about here.
Also, the more I look at it, I think the farm priority is a little bit awkward for Buffingers here because you take a look at it. Venator, greedy hero. Mina, typically pretty greedy hero. Mirage, one of the greediest in the game. And the performance of Shiv, like, yes, Shiv can exist without being particularly well farmed, but he doesn't really love it. And it's one of the few times we see Shiv like look bad is in games where Shiv is closer to poverty than not. So I actually think that in terms of the soul economy for Buffingers, it's a little bit awkward.
I don't know. I'm thinking back to last game because I don't think Listic was really farming that much. I think he was just farming kills. I mean, he was 20-1, and then seeing Vraic on Calico, it felt like he was mostly farming like urns and farming boxes to get most of his income. And then obviously it was like a lot towards Cosmetical and towards Zergy, who were just farming the soul lanes because you had Cosmetical on Geist and Zergy on Infernus, and then Hoot was just kind of taking the third lane, flexing around. I'm not sure. I think I think Buffingers have a plan for it for sure. The one downside though, they don't have the the Drifter to just set up the fights. And I think that's maybe a big difference here with the Shiv Calico together, is who's going to be like the third to that hit squad. And I don't think Billy necessarily fits that quota, though good mobility, good ultimate, it is very possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The more I'm looking at this here, and I think I'm starting to convince myself that I like the Abraham's ref more. As much as like you look at the beginning, it was like, oh my God, you gave up Billy Shiv. I think there's actually a lot of ways Abrahams can play this to their advantage. And the fact that Buffingers are not going to be able to get everyone rich unless they just run away at the laning phase, where I think in terms of laning phase, things are relatively close. Like, I don't think there's a gigantic gap one way or another. I kind of look at this, Jason, and think so long as Pocket has at least an average to above average game, I kind of like Abraham's a little bit more, but we'll see how it pans out.
Okay. I'm still heavy in favor of Buffingers personally, just after what we saw in the last game and the fact that they've been, again, like so confident to just let Pockets go through. I think it's like they don't ever have to ban Pocket because they're so confident in not worrying about these afflictions. And we haven't really seen them be punished for that yet. And I don't know if that's just because they're playing so well or the Pockets against them aren't, but we'll see how it's going to work out here. Is Hoot once again going to be over on the Mirage, back to mid lane with Cosmetical on Shiv this time with them by his side. Obi came on the Mina. And Zergy will in fact get the Venator, and on the other side, so together, so it actually won't be Saint on the Abrams. It'll actually be together on the Abrams, leaving Sonya to flex over to the Lash and Saint on the Viscous.
Yeah, Abrams kind of has a frontline priority where if there's only one frontline character, you can usually expect Together to be the one playing it. Like, I can't really think back to a time where you didn't see Together on something representing the frontline. Like, if there's just one, it's going to be Together. And, in this case, Saint a little bit closer to support roots being on the Viscous. But laning phase is going to be important. And Together just walking in, giving up the parry and the immediate punish. Not an ideal start to the lane, especially with, Buffingers recently being so adept at just turning quick lane advantages into unrelenting aggro.
It looked more like a Listic heavy melee, to be honest, after that last game. But good capitalization of Buffingers to turn that into a kill. Again, Vraic start off pretty good early. And then the Mina Vendor in the right lane. I feel like that's a very strong lane because the raw... Oh, okay. Or Listic. He gets parried up as well.
What in the
counter parry once to get them together.
That is an unreal sequence there, Jason, where just when you think Abraham's about to swap it back the other way, you just get parry after parry after parry. Actually, Abraham's still working with a bit of a health lead and break. Nowhere to go. Maybe turns out into a trade on the Sanya, but Sanya feeling absolutely fine at 130 HP. As we see Listic take a more defensive position in what has been a very parry-heavy game. And, okay, Together off a little bit on the hunt.
I get that heal minion maybe before Vraic gets back so we get the solo heal off of it.
Let's take out Pocket.
The amount of health coming on through here gets them in a fairly good position here in lane. The right hand side though has been just non-stop aggression, and honestly, like Mina and Graves, or not Graves, where did that come from? And Vener together is, I feel like it could potentially be such a deadly combo, especially against a Pocket who has a negative spirit resist. That can do a lot. If you get like one gut shot into the wall, I feel like Empty Dreams could just die. Luckily, he does have the cube to his side out of Saint to help him survive. And probably one of the reasons why they're still holding on this lane. I feel like if you pair Empty Dreams up with anything else in that lane on his Pocket, it wouldn't have as good of a result so far.
All right, 11k to 11k so far. The absolute chaos of the left lane is quieted down a little bit. See if Buff Enjoyers can once again manufacture a lane advantage here. But again, you know, even going back to the beginning of the draft, I think that whatever lane advantage comes out between the teams here is going to be relatively based on execution rather than, you know, massive lane advantages one or other. Though I do think the mid lane, I mean, it's scary, Mirage Shiv, but against Holiday Geist, I don't think that's something that Holiday Geist necessarily falls over either.
Yeah, and I think the kill potential at ults, I would actually put towards Abraham's, to be honest, in that with the lasso under the Guardian. As it looks like the burger box on the left hand side is going to continue. Tass is rotate over from the mid lane, looking for a gank here. No lasso to be seen just yet. Maybe a barrel would be enough to take down Listic, and Sonic gets the kill onto him, so a successful gank comes on through at a Tass. In the meantime, though, Buffingers have responded with their own push in the mid lane to punish Tass leaving.
Yeah, I mean, getting Guardian would be solid, but you look at Abraham's and, yeah, Tass is just rotating back. Barrels in tow. Not going to actually lose that much on the mid Guardian. Down to about half. The damage wasn't necessarily there to punish, but wouldn't be EU without a quick pause and unpause, and what a quicker one here from Together.
Like some counter aggression on the right hand side as well. Saint trying to get aggressive. I wonder if Rake's going to be back on box duty for the most part, like we saw before. Oh, okay, that was a good parry here. Once you get on Together, the counter parry out of Sonya is not going to land, and Sonya actually might pay the price here. Gets extremely low from the burger box, and it's happening. Gets punched up and sent back to spawn. Another kill's created a Buff and Joris on this left hand side, especially the perfect time with buffs coming up here.
Yeah, in this case, that was a get down Mr. President from Sanya. Buff's going to be acquired here, though. Saint grabbed the casting buff, but couldn't come at cost. Gets hit by the Dust Devil, and a pretty angry Hoot in hot pursuit. Cube is going to come in. Hoot going to wait it out and get the kill with the aid of Zergy.
A Hoot pursuit. I like it. They also get... they do get the double... Wait. Did they not get double buffs? Actually, it was stolen away on the kill.
Saint got the casting, and then immediately died for it.
Listic gets gun over on Billy. You see Empty Dreams trying to come in and immediately gets sent on back. So yeah, advantage has been created, though. It's only like 1k in the lead here for Buff Enjoyers compared to Abraham to continue to farm up. That's also how it felt, though, to be fair, with Leviathan, but the kills have drastically fallen. This is gonna be a big dive here. Parry onto the tower. No rake just yet, and actually might get caught up being too aggressive, and Saint turns it around on an Obi-Kim and keeps Empty Dreams alive.
When was the last time Obi-Kim was on this year? Like, that was so ambitious from Obi-Kim that did not seem likely to go his way. Also, Listic falling on the left. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty greedy read by Obi-Kim, and Mina is not Drifter. There is a difference in what you can get away with there. And, you know, Obi-Kim just lost half of his HP in an instant, but back to the grind this time. Looking for Tass in the rotation into middle, which is turning to a very quick counter rotation in from Abraham's. Is Hoot gonna get caught out here? Take a look at the minimap. Hoot down to half HP, a quick dive in, courtesy of Empty Dreams, but things may just return to normalcy here in a moment.
And this left lane doesn't want to stop battling either. Constantly fighting against each other as Rake is off rotating around in these boxes. Though the mid lane, it still seems to be the focus. You can see Obi-Kim is still in the vicinity to look for a kill. Arzo's below half HP, but does have swap, and looks like Obi-Kim will head back towards the right-hand side either way. Not big, too big of a mix-up here. But guard HP, I mean, mid lane is looking fairly low here out of Abraham's. Because of that rotation at Tass on that left lane gank that he was successful with. Mid guard takes a lot of damage and would be ideal here for Buffingers to free up a lane.
Right now, my eye is just on, now that we have ults involved, is how are things used, like, you know, for Empty Dreams? Are you looking for any sort of roam? with the Affliction, and more importantly for Tass, this is where you look for Holiday to get a little bit more active gameplay-wise, make things happen. But people for now hanging still in their main lanes. Both teams looking for Guardians as a bit more of an aggressive dive on the Hoot, courtesy of Varzo, but immediately turned into a back off.
I'd definitely say one of our slowest, but definitely a slower laning phase. Obviously not when it comes to kills necessarily, but the Guardian still being up. You see finally the first to fall on the right hand side. The good silence here on the Saint. He will fall eventually to the help of Zergy, though. The decay is still ticking on Obikim. And he will be cleaned up by Empty Dreams. So 1-for-1 trade. In the meantime, Midlane's being pushed down. So Buffnors get themselves 2 Guardians for 1 death. Pretty big advantage here. Up only 4k 8 minutes in.
Getting the Guardians is good, but the way things tend to break down is that I'd be shocked if Abrahams didn't get the Guardians down in turn before first Rift. The way things are panning out. Sanya dash down, put him in a rough spot. Just the constant CC, and rare to see a Lash grounded to that extent, but happens here. Elsewhere on the map, though, Saint able to equalize on the Zergy. And, even with the Guardian difference, soul count on the game, relatively close, as a little bit footsie right now. 3 members of Buff Enjoyers on the left, just together, holding down the fort, waiting for Sanya to come back in. Sanya does have the Death Slam good to go here, and this is why Together is making a little bit of room. They're looking for the Guardian, but the Lash is on the way.
He's gonna get the connection, though. Only gets the ground strike on a Hoot to finish him off, as Hoot was trying to take down that Guardian. So no Death Slam just yet. Can we actually take a look at Golden Statue buffs? I'm curious. When it's come to Sinners, how many have been taken? And if Abrahams have been denied quite a bit, you can see Obikim 14 so far. I was expect to see Rake maybe a little bit higher as well, but we still see a lot of Sinners up. Death Slam. Speaking of ambitious Death Slams, that was definitely one of them.
That was the ground slam is what we saw there with minus the slam. Yeah, not exactly the ideal moment. Also, as far as Sinners go, a decent portion of them are still on the map. There's been enough back and forth that teams haven't even had the chance to take a little bit of a break, go gamble. But left side Guardian finally gonna fall. And yeah, even with Guardian Edge for Buff Enjoyers here, Abrahams able to keep pace, 45k to 44k, but now both teams setting up for 10-minute buffs. Chain Gang dash down into a buff take, and Listic getting down into it, enough to find Tass.
Yeah, Hoot actually did pick up the movement buff that spawned on the left-hand side there. That Listic was going for. Obikim might be getting caught out here. Decay still taking on him. Seismic Impact has come on through. Not going to connect, though, with the Nox Nostra, or the Sanguine Retreat being used to actually escape away from it. And speaking of escape, Obikim won't be able to do just that, as Yearn has been dropped, but Cosmetical turns things around. A big battle happened on this left-hand side, and in the end, Vrake does pick up the urn. Cosmetical's low. Listic gets cleaned up by Sanya, and Hoot can't chase this kill down.
I gotta say, Jason, for Obikim, who's been playing the super dive tradey playstyle, usually on Apollo and earlier in the Dan Drifter, I don't know if that works anywhere near as effectively in the Mina, because Obikim is still kind of playing ultra aggro, but is dying way earlier into the fight and doing way less damage, at least so far as I can tell in the Mina, relative to what was going down on the Drifter in the last game. I think if you're Abrahams, you kind of like how some of this has been playing out now. Urn contest, not gonna be a thing.
Wee. You know why I made that sound?
Why's that?
Vrake has a trophy collector.
Oh,
I don't know how many stacks he has, but he has it. And we'll get a check in with it in a second, as Yearn has been dunked here by Vrake. I didn't actually catch how many of the soul orbs were picked up for the side of Buff Enjoyers, but trophy collector, again, ambitious is the word I'm going for here. I can kind of understand it. Roaming around looking for a lot of kills. Currently at 3 stacks. All right, okay, not bad. I don't know how long he's actually had it for, but it's more than I would have right now.
Also, Affliction goes out only on to Listic, as okay, Vrake killed a bit of the burn, post parry, surrounded by enemies, immediately gonna fall. And yeah, Listic, it was just I think a one-on-one between Listic and Empty Dreams. Empty Dreams is like, okay, screw this, out come the frogs. But it's kind of a tough time to use the ult here, Jason, because think about the strength of the Pocket comp. It's scary to go against Pocket for things like Rift. Rift is about to come out, and I don't think Empty Dreams is gonna have Affliction back out, and it was just used solo on Listic.
The one maybe thing I'll say to that is I agree, like, for sure, I feel like you want every ult up when it comes to the Rift, especially like the first Rift, if you have nothing else to fight around the map. But I don't think he has it maxed out. I feel like that's where the The affliction really takes its power. The fact that you prevent any sort of healing coming through, the damage that it does as well can be just overwhelming. But we'll see how they fight without him. At least that survival for Arzo. But the problem is him and Hoot are going to be on the right-hand side of the map, duking it out, keeping that lane shoved. So he's not going to be here for this rift whatsoever. And actually, a lot of the members out of Abraham's won't even be here for it, CP.
Wait, they're swapping. Arzo is making the journey over to the left via the teleporter. It's going to be Empty Dreams that fights it, which makes sense because you don't have Affliction. Like, Empty Dreams isn't going to be as effective, so you bring over Geist, as Geist, I think part of her rise has been perfecting this in fights, but now the dive is on the Sanya, who's been target number one in most of these fights, and once more, maybe about the first to fall, Nox Nostra in from Oakham, back in towards the point. The chase down from Break finally gets on to Sanya, and together, just gets mauled on the point. A very rough engage from Abrahams as Buff Enjoyers takes advantage of the chaos.
I mean, Abraham's get a Guardian. Cost him 4, maybe 5. It's going to cost him 5 people. But they got the Guardian. And that is a clear win for Buff Enjoyers. I mean, the thing is, even though they got 5 kills, possibly 6 in a second, I feel like they didn't really gain that much advantage. Only 4k in souls. I mean, obviously the first rift isn't really worth that much, but I think that kind of also gets Cosmetical going quite a bit. He's on a kill streak now at 11k souls. Zergie's on 15k, which is quite painful when you're Arzo at 11k on a Geist. You talk about, you know, like Warden's falling behind. I feel like Geist maybe falls in a similar boat compared to Warden, that when you kind of like fall behind, you're not nearly as powerful as when you're going to be ahead. And I don't really see a world where Arzo can get ahead of Zergie anymore when it comes to farm.
All I know is you take a look at where the farm is at the game. Ballistic going in for Together right now. Together getting a little bit of support in the meantime. 50 HP here, Abrams, but you're going down to that Oakham. Able to chase down the last little bit. Doesn't actually get punished in the end for the attempt. Abraham's a later rotation now. Let's see how this one goes. And wait, on the chase down comes Pocket. Empty Dreams working with a lot of farm. Throws up the frogs. It's 3-man Affliction, Jason. And Obakim goes down. So the counter engage from Abraham's actually pretty good, courtesy of a big Affliction at the end.
Only net 1 kill so far, though. So Cosmetical's forced out of the fight. So was Rick. Ballistic still sticking around to fight up against Saint here in close quarters. And Saint is just bouncing off the walls like a goo man here. Listic gets punched out. Gets the kill at least before he falls. So does Cosmetical. He ends up dying. So 3 kills were had out of Abraham's. So definitely not a bad turnaround whatsoever. Set up by Empty Dreams here for sure when it came to that Affliction. And we're also seeing the Majestic Leap coming back in.
I just look at that last one. It's like the new Flubber remake is going absolutely wild. But who with the urn? Arzo under assault here. Nox Nostra coming on in. A low HP Geist. No soul exchange available, which means it's a vulnerable Geist, and Vrake doesn't miss the opportunity. Elsewhere, Hoot with the urn on the fast break. Oakham gets hunted down while this goes on, and I think if you're Hoot right now, ideally you just get the urn turn in, taking a pit stop here for Together, and Together's HP not looking healthy at all. Just a quick hit on Abrams and back to the urn you go.
Is it just me, ZP, or does it feel like the players that we see now every week in Night Shift movement, if you look back like maybe 2 months ago, has just continued to improve? Like some of the movement Hoot's doing here of just running across the map, like even Listic basically running backwards while still shooting people and knowing exactly where the railings are to jump over when we're not being able to see them. I feel like the players have like really honed in and focused on that because it's looking so clean now.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a step up and then some. Overall, looking at the economy allocation, the one thing that's kind of different in this game, Jason, relative to the last one, is that it's not a super highly farmed Shiv. And I think a poor Mina is not quite the same as a poor Drifter. And you look for Abraham's, with the lion's share of the farm being taken by Empty Dreams, they're really kind of living and dying right now on can you get a multi-man Affliction, and can you actually succeed on this before Divine Barriers start coming out? Like, there's a short window here for Abrams, and maybe getting even shorter, as that was just the listic connection with Hoot. Finds Tass in a bad spot, courtesy of Chain Gang.
On the note of Pocket, though, it does feel like there's a window that Empty Dreams has to play in, or Abrahams have to play with, because once we see like counter spells come through, like we have Listic has one now, if we see more being picked up, I feel like the power that Empty Dreams can bring to these fights will be cut kind of short. I don't expect to really see too many DBs because there's just no natural DB builders on buff enjoyers, I believe. But like we have a counter spell here as well at a hoot. Like they're starting to get some really big counter items online that will prevent Empty Dreams from being super impactful. The cube's been unused and continuing to push on through on the right hand side. I think those are rescue beam pulling together back. The simultaneous push on both lanes here on left and right is actually net a kill onto Arzo.
I don't love this timing again, Jason. Rift is coming up soon, and once more, Empty Dreams has tossed a single affliction onto Listic. I really, because this now sets us up in a spot where Rift is going to spawn. You're not going to have affliction up. Abraham's in general is actually like pretty drained on ults, and once more, Sanya is just getting run down. This has been a miserable game for Sanya on the Lash.
I just like, I know you said, you know, behind Mina isn't as impactful as a behind Drifter, but I just love how aggressive Obi keeps being nonstop here. It's so funny to see. And the thing is, he's still doing a hell of a lot of damage. You saw that was a 13k meetup against a 17k Sanya, and he just chunks him down. Going for a boundless next, so he has even more burst. Look at this here. Actually, Freya going to be top when it comes to hero damage on the Calico? That was something I didn't expect.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Actually, they've had that much damage out of Sanya, despite, you know, a lot of these fights kind of starting out with Sanya being focused down first. So when Sanya's been alive, the output has actually been pretty tremendous, despite the pressure that Sanya's been under. The hero damage stat there is actually very, very illuminating. But there is an upside here, Jason, for Abrahams, is that we're getting the longer end of RNG for the next Rift. Like, I think the pure, like, longest end of it, which means that affliction might be up for the upcoming Rift.
I think it should be, just to contest alone. Oh, sorry, Sanya. I was about to say can't escape this one with the silence, but a great rescue beam once again out of Saint. I would say definitely one of the best users we have in EU when it comes to rescue beam, knowing positioning. And a good dodge by Obigim here to get away from this TAS holiday. As the Rift's going to be on the right-hand side here, and Hoot's just going to continue to push this left-hand side, looking for the walker damage, looking for the split push more importantly. And Buffinger is maybe even looking for a somewhat of an escape here. They're trying to get, looks like Listic around the backhand side as the fight is even continuing in towards the mid lane. It's been just hell breaking loose here on this game so far, ZP. And the Rift is finally,
they do chase down Obikim. You got enough people in mid that you could just turn this into a mid-boss play, but instead it's a all hands on deck for the Urn. Ult's looking good here for Abrahams.
Oh my.
A dive down here for Arzo, who gets chunked and then some gears here. Domini through the tunnel.
Did you see him freaking out there too?
Up in time! Cosmetical chases it down right as Soul Exchange comes up and alive. The fight, meanwhile, going down on the Rift. And once more, it's a solo affliction. It only hits Listic. It's only been Listic getting hit with the frogs. Death Slam in from Sanya, making some space here on the point. Now stuck in a battle versus Vrake versus Billy. Here at the same time, just guns Listic down. Who says Gunlash is dead? And yet the Rift secured by Buffingers. Abraham's getting whittled down. And that could be a big swing in the game here, Jason, because mid-boss likely next.
Oh, it has to be mid-boss, man. It's a seismic impact is the only thing to stop you from taking this. Well done here by Buffingers. Also, I don't know if you caught it, but it was so funny to see Arzo just struggling to get through that doorway, knowing there's an Iridomini with his name on it, potentially chasing. And then we cut to Zergi, who's just sitting there like, no, I want the buff. I don't want to chase down this kill. Cosmetical gets it. And mid-boss has been finished off here, and the two players of Abraham's trying to contend this one, trying to contest it, do something about these rejus being taken. And the first two go the way of Buffingers, and the third, no way for Abraham's to hold on to this, losing out on Together and Arzo. And the chase even continuing further as it's just tasked to run back towards base with no rejus in hand. And almost 20k deficit almost.
Yeah, I mean, that was 3 Rejuve Crystals and Abraham's trying to at least steal 1, end up throwing 2 lives into the Shredder. Things have suddenly gone very, very tough for Abraham's. And look, you know, one thing we kind of talk about anytime there's a pocket comp is that you do live and die in your afflictions. And I feel like more often than not for Empty Dreams this game, you had that 1 3-man affliction, which was great, and Abraham's won the fight. Otherwise, we've just been seeing solo afflictions onto Listic in a lot of these fights. And for Pocket being your most farmed character, it's just not the output you need for a character that you invested in so heavily, both in draft and soul economy alike.
I do wonder if Abraham's did play around these afflictions better, would these fights have changed? But it almost also feels like at the same time, ZP, that maybe that window, it's a little bit shut. I mean, the lead 20k and growing now. 3 rejuves. I mean, they're looking for walkers, and technically this is like probably one of your best opportunities to fight, because you could get rid of these rejuves if they're grouping up on a walker by hitting a fat affliction. That's not it though. The 0-hit affliction is not what you want to see.
Yeah, you thought the afflictions that were just saying listic were not great. Well, this is a little bit worse. It's been unfortunate, I think, sequence for Empty Dreams here so far, but you still got a minute and a half left on the rejuve. Of course, rejuve a little bit less time than it's had historically, some of the recent changes, but 3 rejuves good to go and the stat advantage. If you're buff enjoyers here, Jason, you're kind of angling to try and at least get one shrine off this. Nox Nostra again in from Obakim, eating a lot of damage in the process, but this is the difference here stat-wise. I think even game Obakim probably dies. Game with this solid difference, not so much. Abrahams, though, seizing the opportunity, off on the lasso, into Seismic Slam. They're able to find Zergy. Find him twice. Goes on down. A second rejuve crystal grabbed. Opening perhaps created here by Abrahams. Once more charge here in the Obakim. Obakim running for his life. Saint ends up dying into the back. A quick reprieve as now buff enjoyers try and move back the other way.
Bro, Zergy just got obliterated. Dear Lord, the Death Slam into a seismic impact. But it doesn't matter. They trade 1 for 1 at the end. They still lose base guardians, and buff enjoyers are still sporting a 31k lead in souls. You know, even though Obakim, it wasn't the most farmed, and now we were talking before about like the being behind Amina is maybe more painful than being behind his drifter, but I feel like his Nox Nostras though, like, are still so strong in shutting down Sonya or potentially Empty Dreams in the engagement that they want. I feel like Obakim's been doing a really great job of positioning himself to hit these ultimates at very crucial times to just break up any sort of combo of Abrahams.
Yeah, he's been on I Hate Last duty, although Listic gets caught out, so is Obakim. A little bit of sloppiness from buff enjoyers that Abrahams immediately picks up on, and hold the phone. You're still down, and objective wise, you don't have anything instantly to hop on here, but this is a wide period of time to work with here for Abrahams, and buff enjoyers, surely you don't give up Hoot here on top of it. You see together on the hunt, and a surge from Abrahams if they can keep the momentum going, but the counter spell ruins Tass's day.
What's Rake's trophy collector at? We haven't checked in quite a long time.
Should be like 12 or 13 by now. Something like that.
Maybe like 6, maybe 7 stacks.
Down 2. Saint not looking healthy at all, and whatever the stacks are being, maybe +1 here in just a moment, and absolutely are. 13. I was just I said 12 or 13, and not much more accurate than that, Jason.
It's impossible to be more accurate than that. Sure.
Well,
I mean, it was 12 people when we tuned in, and then 13 once the kill came through. So,
yeah,
really well done, ZP, like the master of keeping track of all of Rake's assists here. As he's another earn dunk gonna pop up in souls. I just wanted to show us replay really quickly here of Zergy and like the commitment they use, because they obviously chase him down. We saw before they get his rejuve, which is big, but to invest like a death slam, seismic impact into him for that 1 kill. I feel like you shouldn't have to commit those 2 big ultimates to just get that 1 player. And the thing is, to be fair, it is Zergy. He is on 38,000 souls, so he is one of the biggest threats in the team. But I feel like the combo that Abrahams have, you need to be hitting more than 1 with these wombo combos if you want to win these fights, especially being down now this far.
Jason, all eyes here on Empty Dreams. Casting buff is set. What is Empty Dreams going to get here with the Affliction? Where, by the way, with all the counter spells that buff enjoyers has bought, there's a good chance that some of these Afflictions were simply counter spelled away, and we just didn't have the camera view on it. So, but either way, lasso on the break. Pick off the break here would be huge. Calco, though, not the easiest pick in most circumstances. Mostly a backpedal coming in here from Abrahams as the rift slips away.
It just seems like a rift that buff enjoyers are taking just to deny it from Abrahams, because, like, realistically, again, you're not. I feel like if you're ahead like this, these minions, which we haven't even talked about, by the way, the Men in Black minions, they just won't do anything because there's always going to be someone there to defend. So, and you're realistically not looking for a big push when mid boss is up in a minute at a time. So just a denial take to continue to extend their lead and prevent Abraham from building up. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head talking about Empty Dreams now. It's basically just it's pocket watch and see what he can do, because they cannot win a fight, in my opinion, without a huge affliction. Not
Also,
anymore.
divine barriers, it's all hands on deck. Where
they have
even
one.
if they get through the counter spells, yeah, we're gonna have a divine barrier on the goat. In fact, can we get a tab? Like that may not even be the only divine barrier.
It has to be the only one though. Unless Obi can, he was going for boundless. I don't imagine he actually got one.
We'll have an update soon, but at the very least, they have one here so far, and looks like it does begin and end at one. Although I think,
Or
take a look at
counter spells.
cosmetical. Cosmetical is probably going to buy one too. Would be my guess. Like you,
Yeah, Guardian Ward for sure. Yeah, he's going up into it. But like 4 counter spells, 2 divine barriers on the precipice of. You're just not gonna get affliction. I think this is why buff enjoyers don't really care about pocket anymore, because I feel like they're so good at just knowing where pocket's gonna be. And even if you can somehow get an affliction on multiple people, I feel like it just gets counterspelled most of the time because they invest into like the defenses early enough.
yeah, I think without replays of every affliction, it's hard to say, but I do think there's a chance that, you know, Empty Dreams has been. Oh, speaking of, you know, plays here, the quick drop on the cosmetical into an affliction that gets nothing. Or gets divine barriered off. Either way, buff enjoyers are not feeling any pain from affliction whatsoever, and Hoot is absolutely cleaning up in close quarters. 2 for Hoot. Listic follows on through. Abraham's dying by the dozen. It's only 4, but it still sounds good to say. And mid boss is up and available now for buff enjoyers, Jason, and could be the end of the game approaching.
I'll have you know, dozen in Italy is actually only 4. It's not 12. So you're right.
That doesn't seem correct, but you know,
No, it's not
nothing,
correct.
nothing surprises me.
So on the note of like divine barriers and counter spells, I feel like the adaptation for Empty Dreams is you have to get refresher, right? You have to go for double affliction in these fights. That's the only way to work around it, because there is a window where counter spell won't be up, that you could hit another affliction. And at 33k, knowing they have this many counter spells, I feel like that should have been bought already, though I don't think he has it.
Well, first stage patron is going on down, and buff enjoyers not much in their way to just end the game here and now. I mean, yeah, Empty Dreams back up, no affliction up available. Maybe this is where you sell and just buy a refresher, but either way, you need people in the pit now as buff enjoyers look to put an end to this. Abrahams, we'll see if they can do anything to defend, and no, Jason, they can't. Buff enjoyers take the first map.
You know, it wasn't super convincing in the beginning. It was definitely a lot closer in the start of this match than what we saw up against Leviathan. But man, buff enjoyers, they just ran away with it. And it became so damn difficult for Abrahams to catch their footing. I think a lot of that, again, goes to the draft. It goes towards buff enjoyers not being scared of pocket, invested early into counter spells. At the same time, you do have to point out Empty Dreams did whiff a couple of afflictions, like the one we saw on Walker hitting absolutely nothing. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, man. Buff enjoyer is just playing on a whole nother level when it came to this week.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, when I evaluate this game, what it comes down to me is that you invested very high pick priority on the pocket and very high soul economy, and you know, whether it be the counter spells, whether it be a bit of user error for some of the afflictions, it just was not that impactful of a pocket game. And I think you have to outplay another team so incredibly hard to get back into the game if something you've invested these resources both in and out of game of underperforms to that degree. And that's just the reality of it. And again, I think you could do the deep dive, and maybe Empty Dreams wasn't even playing bad in this instance, but you just had the greatest counter spells ever for buff enjoyers. Either way, the pocket was neutralized, and it was too much to ask for everyone else to just pick up the slack.
That's a good point. I mean, you look at, if you compare first picks out of both teams and the investment in the draft, like you're talking about, Hoot versus Empty, Hoot Mirage versus Empty Dreams on pocket, it was a complete night and day when it came to impact. Like, you saw how much damage that Hoot was able to put out. I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually like number 1, number 2 when it came to damage. The impact he had as well with Ballistic, with these Dust Devils, with the Rising Rams, he was able to keep people like juggled and held onto for a very long period of time. Also, like the way Hoot did itemize as well later on in the game, I feel like when it came to like first pick impact in this game, Hoot wins hands down. Like, buff enjoyers won that battle, and you have to wonder, is it worth going pocket for Abrahams anymore, or was it worth it maybe going Shiv instead in your first picks?
You take a look at how Together had struggles this game. Would you rather have had Together on the Shiv? Yeah, I think you would have in this instance, or you know, manipulating the draft in such a way that maybe you get something like Doorman. I think that may have been first ban though, so that may not have been available in any instance. But either way, to me, this is just a clear instance that, you know, how you structure your draft, you need to get value out of your highest priority picks, and it didn't happen here. And again, without a full like deep dive, only pocket point of view, we don't know like how many of these were outright missed, how many were counterspelled, and then, you know, later on if you got DB'd. But the bottom line is no one can take a look at this game and be like, yeah, your pocket got immense value. And yeah, I mean, there's other factors that went into the game too, but I just feel like when your richest player is unable to execute on what makes the hero good, it shouldn't be too surprising that things ended up the way they did. And big shout out to Deathy, by the way, on the raid. Always appreciate the support and the co-streams coming from Deathy and his community.
I miss Deathy. I miss Llama Lords. I miss TF2 Boomers. I miss a lot of the old school NA teams. Hope he's doing well. Again, he had a victory over in the Sagem Slam, if I'm not mistaken. Was he playing Darius? Just absolutely destroying people with an OP character. But speaking of destroying people with OP characters, I was going to go somewhere directly with this, but honestly, everyone in Buffingers had a pretty good style line. There was no one in particular in that one to even like focus on.
I mean, Buffinger was just had a very, very solid game as far as rotations and making things happen. And, you know, I think we kind of talked about to begin with is that in terms of win conditions, it was up to Buff enjoyers to make more plays happen with their comp, whether it be picks via the holiday or big afflictions to set things up. Like we said that in the middle of the draft that this was how Buff enjoyers would win. And we didn't really see a bunch of picks out of task. We didn't see a bunch of big afflictions. And, you know, Sanya, I think, honestly, had pretty unreal output for the amount that Sanya was getting targeted. Like, Sanya was enemy number one this entire game, and Abrahams did a great job of just keeping Sanya down. And, you know, the rest of it, just don't make mistakes, team comp-wise, and win the game, which is what we saw. Also, the team names are reversed here. Like, reverse this. We got Buff and George Abrahams on the wrong side.
Yeah, poor Sonya, man. Even when it came to the start of the game, he was being punished quite heavily thinking back to the parry. But then again, like Obi Kim seemed to have been focusing constantly with the Nox Nostros to just prevent Sonya from really doing much. And I mean, I know there's like a Dispel Magic in there, which doesn't work on ultimates, but the fact is, Sonya wasn't allowed to just roam around freely and look for those kills. I mean, even some of these, I don't remember a multi-man Death Slam. And again, not to put blame on Sonya whatsoever, but it just, the whole point of their comp, they weren't able to execute. And whether that was on them not executing well or Buff and Jors preventing it from happening really well can obviously be debated and discussed. But the fact is, if your comp's based around these like good engagements and these like team fights and these picks and good afflictions, if you don't hit those, you can't expect to win.
No, not at all. But if any team can bounce back here, Jason, it's got to be Abraham's. I mean, again, they've been on a hot streak as of late. Last week, the finals went to 3. And look, we were kind of joking about earlier, but this could be another mythical 8-map day. Either way, this is Deadlock Night Shift, Shift 46. Buff enjoyers on the verge of retaking the throne. Can Abraham's bounce back? Join us after the break to find out. Welcome back, everyone, to Night Shift. It is Shift 46, and Buff enjoyers bounce back. They avoid the afflictions, Jason. None of them come down with the plague, and as a result, they take map 1 away from Abraham's, where the story was, is Pocket worth the first pick? And Buff enjoyers have been the one team resistant to it over time, Jason, and kind of showed why in the last game.
Yeah, I think, you know, I feel like I'm always glazing them more than on the show, but it does feel like if you see them going towards a trend, probably smart to follow, because we see Pocket left open multiple times, I feel like, against them, because teams want to pick Pocket and they don't pick Pocket because they realize, yeah, we don't need it. Maybe we don't, you know, rate him as high as a lot of other teams do. I feel like they've adapted to the play style of how a Pocket wants to execute, as we saw in that last game into Dreams. He hit like 1 3-man affliction, but the rest were like solo afflictions you pointed out over on Holistic mostly. And it came down to, was the Pocket a better first pick than a Mirage? And as we saw on the match screen, unfortunately it wasn't. So going ahead here for Abraham's, I would imagine Pocket is definitely not going to be a character they're going to be looking to take right in the beginning. I feel like for them, they're going to lean towards actually Shiv this game to try to get it for together, or for Sonya.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too. Also, I think, you know, the bans went a little bit weird, where it was like Doorman banned into Infernus banned, and it's like, oh, okay, then you guarantee that you get either the Billy or the Pocket. In this case, they're able to get both, because Buff and Jorah says we actually value Mirage over both of those heroes, and it didn't quite work out as expected. I mean, you think about how that game would have went down if they were able to get the Shiv over the Pocket, for example. It probably would have been better. And again, I think part of it too is that when you invest in Pocket right now, because of where you have to go for him in the draft and the way they played around him economically, you are kind of putting a lot of the game on, all right, is Pocket gonna perform? Is Pocket gonna have a big ult? At least when you're playing him the old style and not, there are ways of playing Pocket that's more Cape Max, that's a little bit less all in on the ult. But I think if you're gonna justify Pocket at that high of a pick, it almost kind of has to be more at the ult level, which just wasn't had. But Abraham's, they're a smart team, they're adaptive, and I think the big response we're gonna see here, Jason, is that I wouldn't be surprised if they first ban Pocket, saying, hey, maybe we don't want to play this anymore, but we also don't want you to pick it, would be my guess, as opposed to them picking something like the Infernus.
Excuse me, I just wanted to see what the first ban was actually going to be here out of Abraham's. So they go back to Pocket, instead of the Infernus this time. So we're probably expecting a Doorman ban out of Buff Enjoyers. And then for Abraham's, with the first pick, it's Mirage, Shiv, Billy. I think are probably like 3 of the highest prios of what's going to be. Oh, so not allowing the Mirage to go through. They don't ban the Doorman. And I think Abraham's almost expected Doorman to be banned away by Buff Enjoyers yet again, but they changed things up here. And does Abraham's go Doorman? Do they go Billy?
Yeah, I mean, is Doorman worth it here? Do they think that? And no, they go Billy. I kind of agree with this. I think Buff Enjoyers may have had the take where you look at their pick bans of like, okay, maybe Doorman is a little bit overvalued. And yeah, I kind of like from Abraham's taking the Billy instead. Buff Enjoyers by response, maybe you go Doorman Shiv. I don't think you would hate doing that. The Shiv, they instantly snap up. Do they back it up with Doorman? Is a question.
That'd be kind of sick.
I think they may go Viscous though. I think Viscous has been such higher prio and like going
Also
up here.
choice.
I truthfully think that Viscous may be higher prio than Doorman, but we'll see in just a moment. But no, they said they go Doorman. So what for Abraham's then, Jason? It's gonna be Viscous +1
Viscous,
in my mind.
Viscous Infernus.
Viscous Infernus would honestly, based on prio what we've seen, makes sense to me. I think Viscous though is 100% lock. I would be shocked if he doesn't come in. So the Infernus goes here. Yeah, I think it is Infernus Viscous.
Man, my head is gonna break when we have like 60 heroes in this game. Like drafts are gonna be so crazy when we get to like those points. I mean, right now, like we saw on the hero party from last week, I think there was 9 heroes picked 8 or banned 8 games, and that had presence in every single match from the last night shift. Holiday, yeah, I don't know. I can get it for the Doorman, but Viscous.
It's kind of an underpick of where Viscous has been recently. Viscous has been climbing up, and instead you've just now given Viscous up to Buff Enjoyers on top of Doorman. I don't love the sequence events for Abraham's. I think, well, Holiday was probably likely to be hit mid-stage bans. You just gave up a lot of power from what we've seen from teams recently, and the Holiday pick to me seems a little bit over. And they're going to target Together's hero pool here. So they grab Shiv, which is taking away from Together, and they ban the Abrams, which Together would have likely to have played. Now, Together can play the Billy.
Saint was going to be playing Abrams if they picked it up because Together would be on the Billy.
I mean, possibly, but
no, not again.
Yeah, this is the Obakim you don't get to play what you want. But
I'm looking towards like Venator as probably a needed pick out of Buff Enjoyers here to get Sergey something.
Or Geist. I think Geist has actually been even higher value at times in Venator recently because of how Geist is like really good for rift fights, but instead it's gonna be the GT for Hoot. So if you're Abraham's and you want to get a little bit tankier on this, you have the Geist available, who has been definitely higher priority at this point in the draft. And you can also go Venator on top of it. Like those 2 picks back to back would not be bad for Abraham's.
I know you say Hoot for Great Talent, but I'm thinking this is more of a cosmetical Great Talent and Hoot on Doorman.
I mean, it's possible.
Because who is the Doorman player for them, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It's possible, but also anytime they've played GT, like recently, it's been Hoot GT most of the time. So it could break the other way with this combination of heroes, but...
Oh, they take Drifter away from Listic.
Yeah.
Because we weren't sure if it's a Listic or cosmetical Shiv yet. Interesting.
I think...
I don't hate their comp so far, honestly. Abraham's look pretty damn solid with this.
Abraham's comp is definitely, I think, in a better spot than last game, especially because it's less all or nothing. The Geist is going to be picked up towards the end for Buff Enjoyers, and, you know, kind of look at it here, I'm wondering what, if anything, would be the Obakim hero, and, you know, they still have some options here, especially if they want to mix things up. You could even grab the Mina, again, if you just want to be like, yep, go in and run it down. And instead, they Calico for Vrake.
Interesting. So, Zergy Geist. And then who's on Viscous if Rake's on Calico? Obikim? Or is it?
Obikim did have periods of time on Viscous if you go far enough back. It also could be Obikim and Doorman. I think Obikim had a period of time doing a lot of Doorman. But it's going to be Ivy, the round things out for Abraham. So kind of a different look here all around. The interesting
the Ivy, it kind of acts like a pseudo way to deal with Grey Talon, right? Because you can get the stomps on Grey Talon, though obviously maybe not so easy because of the air dashes you can do, but you'd almost have to wonder like a Phantom Strike has to come through out of Billy to deal with whoever's on Talon in the air. Like they need some sort of response to that.
I was muted. As I look at this here, Buff and Joy is running a comp that honestly I think is squishier than you might expect. Like you get cube saves here, but if Shiv doesn't get a bunch of farm, if Geisses get a bunch of farm, there's a lot of ways that Abrahams can just kind of run at Buff and Joyers here. I mean, you have Drifter, who, as we saw earlier today, is getting played as, you know, just basically a kamikaze warrior half the time, where it's just like, I'm going to go down, but I'm going to make a favorable trade. You have Infernus, who is still generally played like heavily into Flame Dash. You have Billy, who's just going to be running in. You have Ivy, who, you know, makes the ground lava, who also like a lot of Abrahams is simply going in. And Buff and Joyers, a lot of their comp is more, you know, playing around it, being more evasive. Like I think the barrier to execution is a lot higher for Buff and Joyers to make their comp work than it is for Abrahams to make their comp work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's pretty much just a reversal of what we saw in the last draft, right? I think Buff and Joyers were in Abraham's boat, and Abrahams were in Buff and Joyers' boat. And we saw for Abrahams, it didn't work with the pocket, the lash, all working together to hit these combos. But I don't know, man, like that first game, it felt so one-sided for Buff and Joyers, even though the early game wasn't necessarily completely in one direction or the other. But once Buff and Joyers got the lead, they ran away with it. I think what I'm mostly curious about is who's going to be on who, man, going into this one for Buff and Joyers in particular. We're talking about Hoot on Flyers. I would be extremely excited to see Hoot on GT once again.
Also, a lot of people are kind of dogging on Ivy, being like, oh, Ivy doesn't do anything. I think Ivy gets a little bit underrated in terms of how powerful she actually can be at the moment. Like, don't forget, she got banned in the first game, which is partially like, hey, we don't want Fargo Record to play it. But the modern Ivy is played a lot more as enabling ganks. Like, enable it, you use airdrop for some of the most hyper aggressive plays possible. And, you know, in this case, it would be airdrops onto Billy in all likelihood.
Yeah, I mean, that or a combustion as well can be so scary with a flying and the Ivy to drop you in. But yeah, I mean, there's like, I think there's two good options for sure.
I don't think we've run that graphic before, have we? Or
no, we did last game.
I just blocked it out. Did we do it? Okay, I was just blocking out while looking here. But a little bit of extra oomph there, especially for those watching the VODs.
I think it's mostly just production wanting to get their names out there. Let's be honest.
Nah, everyone knows who production is.
Lotu's like, come on, do it, Sullivan, do the thing.
You mean
he got us with your mom? You know, he could. If Lotu was smart, he would have actually changed one of those slides to be something about your mom after he got myself and Uber last week.
No. Don't put this evil on the world. But we
was it 29K people, Lotu? So saw you get Uber.
Also, we'll get a little bit of clarification on who's playing what here in just a moment.
Doorman. Okay, so not Hoot.
Yeah, I mean, Hoot has been Mr. Flyer recently, although, okay, Hoot is not on the... This is all sorts of weird, given that in the lead up here, like all week, Hoot was, yep, I'm just on GT, yep, I'm just on Vindicta. And we have a game here where because, I mean, okay, for Vrake, it kind of makes sense because Vrake has been Viscous Calico, but never both in the same game. So it's caused like a bit of shifting on Buff and Joyers on who is playing what, because... You know, normally they have only one of Viscous or Calico, and Vrake would be playing one of the either, but all right.
Here's a question for you. You know who we haven't seen today that is a little surprising, because I don't feel like this hero fell off that hard, even though it was some big nerfs.
Silver?
Silver. We saw her in NA, but we haven't seen her at all here in EU today.
EU has been a little bit less bullish on Silver than NA. NA still really likes her, especially if Florida NM is in the game. EU, not as much when it comes to frontline. Whether it's
Very
warranted or not is another story entirely. But Sanya and Empty Dreams are, again, the belt right now in lane. That's a rough start, but not one that's resulted in a kill just yet.
Such a funny statement, getting the belt.
You know what I'm looking forward to at the first major Deadlock event? Whatever Valve ends up putting on, and someone actually brings an 84-inch TV and like asks Lightbringer to like throw a brick through it or something along those lines.
That would be very funny, but a very expensive gag for sure.
You know, not as much. TVs have gotten really cheap nowadays. Like that's the wild thing. Like inflation is going wild, but the TVs just keep getting cheaper. In this case, though, Saint under a bit of pressure. Sanya on the hoot though, off on the right lane.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be going to that first Deadlock LAN, ZP will buy you an 84-inch TV as long as you play along with the joke.
Oh no! There's never been a greater boon for technology stores in the local area.
I thought you were gonna say like Lightbringer bringing like a Lightbringer branded belt to a LAN.
People just give Lightbringer a belt, like not in the giving him the belt, but just like giving him a belt. That's kind of what I'm expecting.
Well, we did have some early pressure on the right hand side as we saw Empty Dreams Sonya being sent back towards base. Hoot has roamed around towards middle here. I was just at the post 3 minute mark trying to pick up a lot of these boxes. Going to teleport on back. Hopefully not miss out on a wave here. Picks up Stalker. At the same time, we're seeing Sonya do a similar thing here on Drifter, looking for some maybe interaction towards middle, but they've been shoved under the tower here. It's gonna be a very difficult dive to pull off.
Things calming down just a little bit, but you know the advantage of running Calico the way you are is that you have the ability to pop up people least expect it. But the turn back the other way into the dive on Cosmetical. Barrel out with a little bit of help from Drifter. Ooh, gonna be a little bit late to the fight. Maybe enough to get some here onto Holiday. The parry attempt, ill-advised. Obakim able to take down Tess as a result. It may not be stopping there. Ivy, Stone Form, still absolutely wounded, trying to take cover around the Guardian. But Drifter is here, and does Hoot get traded out as a result? Maybe not.
Time to move.
I think Hoot is probably one of the most difficult players to kill in this game. Not to just glaze him up again, but his movement is so clean, and something like Calico, I feel like he could also do some like crazy movement with leaping slashes. Oh, nice little barrel here. That's gonna catch on Obikim, but Obikim's just disappeared. He's gone through the door. Not towards safety though, right back into task and cleans up the kill that he started off.
Not the greatest of disappearing acts, but here you get the 3-man rotation in the middle. Elsewhere though, Abrahams goes in, and okay, just a quick parry at Together's expense. What could have been death for Zergy is very much averted.
Much closer in this game, it feels like so far here for Abrahams, starting to set the pace a bit more. Control the game a bit more, more importantly. Thinking back to their Abrams and their Lash lane on the left-hand side in the last game. They were constantly bullied. And right now, he feels like he's doing a little bit of bullying here, ZP. 4.7k souls, has been a part of quite a few kills. It feels like he's almost hit a flow state of just going from lane to lane, box to box, kill to kill. Now we're towards the left-hand side, and they've left, Listic to his own devices on the right-hand side, but that's also forced to rotate out of Sonya as well. So it's going to be like an early 1v1 on the right lane with Empty Dreams, who I feel like should win out in this battle against Listic as an Infernus for Shiv.
One thing, and speaking of Shiv, we got 2 knives directly in the back of Empty Dreams. Just gonna flame dash off and away. See Shiv looking for an extra knife. Gonna land it. Wait, did that go up to 3 stacks? Or did the stacks wear off? It wasn't entirely clear. Either way, the pressure in lane has been pretty significant at Listic towards Empty Dreams, and maybe about to get way more severe as Hoot going in for the dive, in off the parry. Calico going in deep, but maybe just enough clearance here for Empty Dreams. But that's gonna be a back to base.
Oh, it didn't connect. I thought the knife connected because I was watching the HP bar. It didn't go down far enough. The pressure's still on. It forces Empty Dreams back. They get the kill into Sonya, and they're dealing. Oh, an owl coming on through. Maybe connection as well. Another kill potentially to be had here up against Tass. The dive's continuing to come on through. The parry gonna be missed. That's 2 kills in a row, mate. Oh, don't even tell me they're gonna feed over a third here. Empty Dreams got to be so careful. He wants this kill on the list. It gets the stun, gets some good damage on through, even gets a parry as well. So they trade 1 for 1 at least here. But who is? I feel like who's just gonna commit.
Yeah, then no escape towards the end. Honestly, a pretty good rebound from Empty Dream. Solid concussive combustion into the parry. Flame dash gets all the damage you need in that situation. So, you know, yeah, while the lane was looking good for Buffingers, the bounce back pretty good from Abraham's in turn as we see Cosmetical right now desperately trying to get away. And no, the door not quite enough as Tess has a brief stay in the Baroness.
Look at Obi-Kim. He's like, I'm out. I'm going towards your side. You can have the Guardian. I'm gonna get back into the jungle and look to escape here. This looks like a parry had come in on this left-hand side, but the right lane is being overwhelmed, forcing Cosmetical to rotate here to deal with this Guardian. On the left-hand side, the dive gonna continue. Who, again, just make his presence known around this map. They force away the rest of Abraham's. So the Guardian is still looking very healthy.
Things kind of breaking down for both teams at points here. And, you know, at the end of the chaos, relatively even, but a little bit gambling interruption. Tass drops on in, looks for the parry, drops a barrel. And the center, a point of contention. Zergy falling in the melee. And we still got Tass looking for more. No lasso, no problem. Still got barrels, still got the bounce. Arzo with the backup from the back behind. And that's gonna be enough to get Guardian here too, Jason.
That was actually some really sick movement out of Tass there, keeping the damage from the jump pad by wall jumping and connecting over an Obi-Kim there. But we do have like finally a second to take stock of things. Empty Dream's at 7.8 thousand souls, but Listic is also matching him at 7.5k again. As mentioned before, they've been left in this lane here to just farm up, while their lane partners have rotated around the map. Who on 6.6 is actually towards the right-hand side, maybe looking for Sinners. This is going to be another Guardian taken.
You know what I'm happy about for our players, Jason? That with the exception of one, I think it was back in the Fight Night era, one time, players have never messed up leaving the game and rejoining. Like that they properly close down the game without hitting the leave menu, and rejoin when they need to. So we've only had one game where we've had to tell a team, yeah, you know, that was your mistake. You have to play 5v6. And for the amount of rejoins we get on any given game night, that's pretty wild. Just as Empty Dreams is getting crunched from all ends, Return the Shadow gonna be the final piece. But I think that was enough that there wasn't a +8 for Cosmetical, timing-wise. It's kind of close, but I don't think he died close enough to the owl. Might be wrong.
Ooh, a little bit of a parry bait here. I like, though, how... Oh, okay, so he prevents it from being taken, but it might cost Hoot his life. She does have some backup here, so even if he baits him in, if he falls to get these kills, it could be extremely good here. Listic, potential good slice dice coming on through. Cosmeticals here as well. Empty Dreams has rejoined the fight.
The banditry coming out from Tass stole 2 bags. That's 1,200 unsecured souls here, and looking for a little bit more. Barrel over and in, looking for Listic, who's all sorts of low, goes down. Final shot from Tass. That is full loot goblin mode that Tass just got away with on the skirmishing.
Be pretty happy about that. Up to 8.8 now. I did want to say before that fight actually kicked off is that I feel like Buffingers were doing a really good job of controlling Empty Dreams. Really not allowing him to just get so much free farm on this right hand side. They've invested quite a bit of resources to deal with him, though he's still going to be ahead at 9.6k. Earn has been picked up here for Together. Wow, Hoot is just really on the chase here for Saint.
It's an air dropping Ivy. Like, then there's a limit to what to expect here. Gotta watch the Vent Trap though. Sanya's still able to trade out 1 for 1 on the Drifter. Earn control. Currently Abraham's, and should be a pretty easy dunk for Together. Walks it on in.
Not bad. I mean, you talked about the importance of Together, the importance of just Billy in general in these games. And his extra souls are going to go a long ways for him, though they did lose out on Tass and Saint here while all this has been happening. And as well as that left-hand Guardian, so pretty much souls basically dead even. Looks like they're going to be getting caught out in the mid lane. And we've definitely seen a little bit of a change here, like with the GT changes. Cosmetical, I think he's maybe only at like +8. I think he has been a part of 1 kill with the owl before, or we used to see him on quite bigger stacks than this in recent times.
Yeah, and for GT, there's still always that element of the GT pick feels a lot better if you get stacks. the way Buff and Joyers are playing, I don't know if they're as reliant on it, because a lot of that also came back when GT was a first pick, first ban in the draft, and, you know, kind of similar to the logic we're talking about Pocket, and you needed the hero to have a big performance. I don't think the pressure is as high on GT to have that level of game, but the Rift is about to open. It's coming up on the left. Abrahams, they got together in motion for it, and ult-wise, Abrahams, they got everything up for this, Jason. In a pretty solid spot. Vrake picking up rescue beam right before the end here, so even an early lasso may just be answered by the beam. Abraham's gonna be first on the scene, and look at the pressure on the Tass, who immediately getting to work, but the parry might have just saved Tass's life.
I was going to say, they don't have two players here, but they're being flown on over. It's going to be Drifter and Ivy join the party once again. Combustion will catch on to Hoot here, and he's getting locked down quite heavily, especially with the slow and hex, so he will be the first to fall here in this skirmish. This Cosmetical's going to follow up with as well. And another parry, this time onto Listic, it looked like, as he did get dealt with initially. A little bit of empty dreams being thrown into the Baroness Hotel, but the afterburn gets the kill onto Listic, and it's just a complete win here for Abrahams. I think a lot of that due to the fact that you had the rejoining of Sonya and Saint there to turn it into a man advantage. But the problem is Zergy's been pushing this whole time for a walker, so realistically, is it that big of a deal that Abrahams won that fight here for Buff Enjoyers?
I mean, Buff Enjoyers are not feeling bad if you get the walker and you get Zergy fed, but you are going to be feeling bad if this turns into a win for Abrahams on the left. We'll see how the fight breaks down, though. Empty Dreams first to fall on the left. Not the ideal for Abrahams. Zergy also maybe again punished a little bit, low HP and down. Also on the left fight. Abrahams still fighting decently. Saint looking for a way out. It's got a little bit sloppy. Listic killing blow. Ready to go on some of the stragglers, and does find Saint before it's all over.
So even with like the victory there, it's still not necessarily a clean victory, I think is the problem. You need to take your advantages. The fact that Zergy, I mean, the thing is, I feel like once they noticed that Ivy and Drifter were leaving lane to go contest the rift, that I feel like Buffers knew, okay, that fight's going to be probably over. We need to get something off it. They get the walker. They still maintain a lead from all of this. They protect their own walker on the left-hand lane, and I would say they still come out ahead at the end of the day, because now you have Zerg at 15k leading the lobby when it comes to souls.
Yeah, I mean, getting the solo walker, the Zergy is good, and just getting walker in general, but we got a Veil Walker lasso that completely whiffs. Not on target at all. Cosmetical was the person to be gone after, and that's going to be a 2-minute wait for Tass. Honestly, things like that can be a big shift in the game state. Elsewhere, you got Hoot looking for the Priest.
You're not gonna stop me.
I mean, Hoot's still pretty scary. 13k souls. He's been so aggressive, and I feel like the fact that he's been allowed to roam around so much in this game, it creates a little bit of uncertainty in Abraham's side of where he's going to be, where he can pop up, especially with like that and Doorman together. You just never know any players are going to be coming. That's an Owl coming on through here, looking for the connection. It's not going to get to base in time. Instead, going to look for someone else, maybe a triple hit here just for some damage to come on through. And it does hit 3. Actually hits Empty Dreams, the middle combustion as well here, while the Eternal Darkness has caught on to 2 for Buff Enjoyers. A very weird fight that's looking like a full-on disengage.
Fight though still going on. While it goes on, together picks up Urn and Sanya. Caught in the melee. But honestly, giving up Sanya, who's a little bit behind anyways, for Urn control, not necessarily the worst, especially if Together is able to get the dunk. Like, I actually don't think that trade-out is too bad here so far, though. Does Buff Enjoyers try and make this mid-boss play? They're flirting with it in the area. And yeah, we see multiple people heading down the mid-boss location. Are they gonna be able to get mid-boss here? They're eating a lot of barrel damage, though. The AoE is kind of unreal. Together with the Urn, no problem, says, I still want to fight. The threat of mid-boss draws Abrahams in, but you know, for Buff Enjoyers, that's a tough commit with the amount of damage Abrahams was able to pump out.
Still committing to this one. You just saw in the Leviathan match, Buff Enjoyers were able to spoil this mid-boss take, and it has been finished off here. We see a full 6-on-6 fight breakout here. Domini being used, and it looks like Abrahams might get initial control here with the Ivy Stone form. They get all 3 rejects and 2 kills just as quick as that. And Abrahams completely winning on this fight here.
Not only do you get the disruption from Stone Form that's perfectly timed from Saint, Empty Dreams lays a carpet of flame, and the entire thing is just completely inhospitable for Buff Enjoyers. And Jason, to begin with, they were already low from the damage that Tass was able to lay in on the first attempt. So for Abrahams, that's a really well calculated time to go for mid boss to get all 3 Rejuve crystals. They clean up buff enjoyers across the map, and we might be looking at the beginnings of a map 3 here, because this is an unbelievable route in favor of Abrahams.
Yeah, it has to be a double walker take 2 with this one, and the 3 Rejuve still holding strong. Ours is up to 17k, which is matched on a Zergy from the solo walker that he had before. They're actually not going to get the second walker. They're actually let this one go. Play safe here. Though we do have a kill actually happen onto Saints. They lose one of the Rejuves, but they turn it into a kill on the Listic at the same time. It's really not that big of a loss here for Abrams. They're up 10k now, ZP. This is a huge turnaround for the team who was down 1-0 in the series so far.
I just think buff enjoyers, I don't think they recognized how low they were from the early opening, and the MVP of that entire engage for me has to be Tass. I mean, Tass laid out enough damage that the rest of the fight and the way it worked out went in Abraham's favor. Like, it doesn't happen without Tass just landing good barrels, setting the stage, and, you know, buff enjoyers inexplicably deciding to stay for the fight afterwards. And I mean, none of it works out. I mean, again, you just have this perfectly timed stone formed by Saint. Empty Dreams does what you generally want to do in first and just deny area on the flame dash, and it just, nothing about that fight went well for buff enjoyers.
I think the overwhelming damage that Abrahams have as well, it's very difficult to deal with. I mean, I talked before about the investment out of buff enjoyers to deal with Empty Dreams to prevent him from getting so far ahead. Ballistic, I mean, he's kind of fallen 5k behind, as he was the one to clean up that farm initially against Empty Dreams. And he's certainly sitting on 19k, like he's second highest in the lobby right now. Empty Dreams are starting to put in some serious work here, and I feel like this is a slope that's extremely slippery for buff enjoyers. Like, Hoot is also only at 16k. They're losing the prospect of instant bursting someone down.
I mean, Cosmetical also hasn't had much in the way of farm here. Like, also Chain Gang, oof. You have all the weaknesses of GT in the late game without the upsides of GT having a bunch of stacks. You got to farm to Arzo, pulling out the crossbow. This is a bit rough. Now, okay, you trade out the crystal on Sanya because Rejuve is about to go down. Like, that's actually smart from Sanya in that situation.
And they're really trying to get something out of this. They can't keep that walker up. No Cosmetical, no chance. And the Rift's gonna be spot on the left-hand side as well, where Abrahams already have that full control. I feel like there's just no world that buff enjoyers can get this Rift. I feel like you just, I mean, if you're gonna fight, this is probably one of the better times to go for it. You do have old advantages. You need to get some catches, and it might be coming off the back of Sonya getting caught up with slowing hex here initially by Hoot, but now Hoot's being overrun by damage. The backup's not there for him. It seems like buff enjoyers have used a door to engage deep here on the enemy lines of Abrahams, but no kills are gonna be had.
I mean, Hoot is low, but buff enjoyers has everything up in the tank alt-wise, and Abrahams, they're pretty drained, which is why Abrahams, you know, fighting this is a little bit tricky. They're still able to pick off Cosmetical on the back, but they were pretty drained on resources, so buff enjoyers, they get the advantaged urn, or rather advantaged rift. And now urn comes up, but Empty Dreams is a problem. You talk about a change in fortunes from map to map. Look at Empty Dreams on Pocket relative to Empty Dreams on Infernus, where Empty Dreams has had enormous contribution in basically every single fight here so far. And honestly, the more I see about Infernus on this patch, the more I feel like Infernus is actually a little bit undervalued in draft prio, and that's still him getting picked in the first half of the draft.
Yeah, the thing is, buff enjoyers had to invest so many resources and so much time to deal with him in the beginning of the game. They just gank him constantly, but it didn't matter. Like, he's still going to be one of the highest soul owners so far in the game. Oh, they just throw the urn directly on top of the turn-in. No chance to contest this one. Actually, it's Ivy carrying it. Okay. Oh. Okay.
Just a quick stone form engage into the Baroness Hotel, which actually I don't think Saint cares that much on exit. We'll see how the fall through is. Goes for the bounce pad and likely about to be gone. Listic will chase now, but this is not the easiest chase down here whatsoever. Goes for the iron bounce pad, lands the extra knife. Buff enjoyers trying to be scrappy to find anything here. They get Arzo a little bit low, but are they gonna be able to finish it instead? All the damage starts pouring in the Listic at the same time. They get Arzo, but it comes at a dear cost. Yeah, they get 2 here so far. However, is Hoot going to be able to get away? Abrahams is re-engaged. The parry buys a little bit of room as Hoot is desperately looking for anyway. Now takes the door. A little bit of disruption, but you still got Drifter in hot pursuit. Sanctum goes down, gets sniped.
I mean, this is a massive trade, man. They got Empty Dreams and Arzo down. Then they cleared up 2 more kills. They only lose Ballistic for this one. A massive bounce. Look at the soul difference, only 4K. Buff Enjoyers, they might have been down, but they were not out. And Abraham's throwing a mistake here, being chased out. As Tass, I mean, he'll be fine to escape from this one, but we're starting to see some items come through. Bullet Resist Shredder, some Slime Bullets. Nothing really massive being bought for Buff Enjoyers, but they buy them. I feel like some breathing room here. I mean, Zergy at 26K. I think the kill into Empty Dreams was probably one of the biggest things they could get in this one, because you've allowed Zergy to create a bigger lead up to 27 now. Zergy's gonna start to come online and really put some pressure out. Hoot, I think he's starting to be at the position now to not necessarily one-shot Sonic Sniper, but like he can put some major pressure on Arzo and Empty Dreams, especially with like an Arctic burst or something like that. Sorry, I almost knocked over my fan. To like lock someone down so they can actually capitalize. You saw Listic there. He just couldn't get the chase onto Arzo because of the disengage of the rest of Abraham's, and having something like that would really help out.
I think the problem is, though, you look at these both teams against each other in a straight-up team fight. I really favor the Abraham's composition where you're at. I mean, obviously, if Buff and Jor is able to get a early pick on the TAS, it changes things. But without Buff and Jor's manufacturing an early pick, I think Abraham just has the advantage, and they just walk forward. A quick abduction of the Obakim. His follow-through going to be there. Empty Dreams comes on out, and Obakim is instantly dispatched. Covering fire from Cosmetical, not going to be enough, but this sets up the 6-on-5, potentially straight to mid-boss if you're Abrahams, where Jason, you don't even have to worry about Doorman, who's one of the best contesters of mid-boss on the Buff Enjoyers team.
Yeah, but you do have to worry about like the power shot from Cosmetical, the damage from Geist as well, which is I think why they initially just go straight off of the boss, and they get some big kills here. Listic who fall in a big bag as well. Chain Gang not going to catch on a Cosmetical, as I think he got stunned on a parry or together. Dead. But yeah, they're still going to get the kills. They just overwhelm them in manpower. And in Buff and Jor's doing that, they bought some time before. It didn't matter.
Yeah, I just don't think their mid-boss fight was good to go for at all, especially after losing Doorman. I mean, you had the beautiful engagement together. Zergy's trying to work some heroics, but down soul exchange and just burning from afar. Can we get a look at the damage stats on the game right now? Because I feel like Empty Dreams has just padded in some of these bigger fights, whether it be just from sparking people or that, but no, actually, the big winner is TAS, which makes sense looking back to the previous mid-boss fight, honestly.
Obakim is able to pull some people through the door, trying to go for a steal here. He's buying some time. The door's still going to be... Oh, the door's closed. Actually, no, the door's still there. Can they get in? Are they going to go for the contest? You see Listic charge on through. The Stonefront comes on in and connects. And Abrahams do get the 3 rejuice and the kills. And I think that might have been the final nail in the coffin in this game here, ZP.
Some people are like, why Ivy? Well, a fact from the fact that Ivy is able to, set up good ganks with airdrop and, honestly, pretty good space control. A well-timed stone form does wonders for mid control. That is the second, very high-profile time in this game where Saint just drops in, good stone form, obliterates the contest attempt, and leads Abrahams to a clean 3 rejuves.
It's back-to-back clean rejuice too. It wasn't just this one. And together once again with the urn, trying to catch up in souls. And a rift at the same. Okay, I mean, rift might be obtainable for Buff Enjoyers if Abrahams don't contest it. But it also might be an opportunity for Abrahams to just catch up the rest of Buff Enjoyers and get some more kills. I mean, it's Empty Dreams alone against 2, maybe 3 on the right-hand side. But if you're Abrahams, I feel like you just let them take it. You just go take base guardians, or do you just contest? I mean, you have 3 rejuves.
I think you just like fighting at this point. We'll see how it pans out, but I mean, 3 rejuves, and again, I think a team comp here that's just significantly better at team fighting at this point. But Okim's gonna walk in, immediately be set alight. Short disarm the Empty Dreams, who by the way is at nearly 4k HP. In this build. This is a tanky Infernus on top of everything. Airdrop together, joining the party, walk through the door, and it doesn't seem to care one way or another as Buff Enjoyers find themselves pushed back as the Men in Black roll out.
I mean, it was a little bit scary for a second, but maybe it was just me being scared because you're going straight through a door into a walker. That would have been a little bit more deadly for Abraham, so it doesn't matter, man. 3 rejuves, 30k in Furnace. Has been thrown into the Baroness Hotelis Walker. Not long for this world anymore. As Raycast throwing a cube on out, but it just doesn't matter. Look how far aggressive Together can be. Coming back on full HP on 3,700 health. Just force them directly back into the base, and Buffendor's, they can't get any clean picks anymore.
No, and also in terms of farm, you talk about heroes that you want to have an impact on the game. Listic is way too broke at this point. A 19k Shiv is a threat to no one in this game. Like, Listic is basically saying here, and rather than being the Shiv that's like, oh, it's Shiv, we have to run, we need multiple people, it's you can kill Shiv by looking at him, and Listic is kind of forced into the opportunistic playstyle of, I'm gonna hide and hope for killing blow, which isn't happening unless you actually get people low. And in terms of just raw skirmishes, we've just hit the point where Buffendors cannot take an even fight whatsoever, and even just dealing with Empty Dreams running at them is a hassle and a half.
And they can't even take an advantageous fight anymore, it feels like. Oh. And another rejuve gone. Plus 16, so that's only 2 confirmed kills for Cosmetical with the Owl. But the rejuve's all gone. Maybe somehow Buffendors can get them to overextend, but just look how ahead Abrahams are still. Even though the Souls doesn't really reflect it, this is a good knockback into the Fountain here, and they get the kill on Empty Dreams. Buffendors with 2 left alive against the 4. They'll salvage the fight. They'll keep their base alive for now. But it feels like it's just slowing down the rot, not stopping it.
I mean, the fact that they can maybe walk away at this with only 1 shrine down rather than both is actually pretty remarkable. Just Doorman thing is getting Empty Dreams killed, and honestly, Saint might have went a little bit aggro. The overall game state, though, is still absolutely horrendous for Buff Enjoyers. You're down about 30k, and you're down 1 shrine, so your ability to actually keep waves in your favor has drastically declined. And in terms of ways Buff Enjoyers get back in, can we get a stack check on Cosmetical, actually? I'm just curious what level of power we're dealing with on GT. The eye test says that Cosmetical is at the most at something like plus 32. But my guess is more in the realm of plus 24. No, it's a plus 16.
Yeah,
that is a very non-lethal Great Talon.
It's almost healing with those owls. Okay, not really. That's not how it works. I know. Thing is, it's like almost a 30k difference. I feel like realistically, there should be no way Buff Enjoyers have a chance to come back in this game, bar a massive throw out of Abraham's, which I just don't see happening. I feel like they're playing a little bit too cleanly here. You can just see it's been a upward trajectory for the last 5 minutes of time, if not longer.
Well, also, you have GT, where if your GT has this few stacks, you're weaker than you should be at this point in the game, and Calico tends to fall off the later in the game you go. Even if this game were even on Souls, I would be favoring Abrams, but the fact that Abrams has the lead is that your win conditions for Buff Enjoyers, you're looking for things like either Hoot getting the assassination of a lifetime onto someone like Tass, or you're hoping for Obakim to have like the doorman play of the gods. But Calico, as you can see in cases like this, isn't really threatening. The HP bars didn't move much there, Jason, on that engage.
Yeah, not at all. And actually was so aggressive in the position he was taking with no backup. I feel like actually Abraham probably could have killed him before he had a chance to respawn. But man, the comeback are in here helping quite a bit, and how fast he can get around the map. But his teammates might be getting caught out here. Obikim gets cubed and rescue beamed on back. Well, it looks like they might not be able to save Zergy here, and he's gonna fall without a chance to use the ultimate, man. And Buff Enjoyers are losing their highest net worth players while Hoot's still running the urn. There's just no chance to defend against this, and we're going to a game 3 here, ZP. There's no way around it.
Yeah, game 3 is in the cards, and look at how we got here, Jason. You got to give all the credit in the world to Tass, who I think made some of the most important plays possible for Abrahams to flip that very key mid boss, to get pickoffs later on, and of course, beyond that, Empty Dreams just being Mr. Consistent on Infernus all throughout the game. Second Shrine is about to go down, and we'll see. I think mid boss is coming back up, so Abraham's is, I think, going for Shrine, going to mid boss, and then is gonna go for game end. Is how it's looking right now. Where's Tass? Why is Tass almost dead? Tass is getting chased by Hoot. Can we get camera on Hoot right now? This should not be happening. Hoot is about to take Tass's head right off, even as mid boss is being taken. All right, we got the camera on Hoot.
He did.
Yeah, it's not
Very good
looking
on my
good.
screen.
Not looking good from Mr. Tess. Now, does this change much of anything with 5 members of Buff and Joyers being dead? No, not really. But hey, Tess let his guard down. Is about to get bopped by Hoot for it. Small victories, even in the face of imminent defeat.
I wonder if like Together can get back in time to trade this kill though. If Hoot gets the kill and gets away, it's not that bad. Though I think it's still not really going to matter too much because Buff and Joyers, like, they're not going to be alive in time by the time their first stage patron falls.
Yeah, and also, I mean, mid boss is about to go Abraham, so this is a, you know, you're happy to get the pick off. Tess is gonna be dead for a while. Well, let's see if it gets. We got Billy. Actually, never mind. Tess gets to escape. It might actually be Hoot joining the rest of the Buff and Joyers here as Together looking all sorts of farmed. The stomp in from Ivy and Hoot.
Time to start a riot.
Not able to chase down Tess, says all 3 rejuves, and game 2 about to go the way of Abraham's.
Look, if that pause doesn't happen, Task doesn't live. I feel like Together would not have made it back in time. I don't know. I wasn't looking at where he was going, but the fact to get to like discuss, okay, he's chasing me, turn around, help, you know?
Honestly,
it wouldn't have mattered.
It's possible. Does it change the game in any meaningful
No,
way?
not
Absolutely not.
Oh my gosh, escalating exposure too. And Rejuve, 38k. Why are you putting empty dreams on Pocket, man? Just give him the Infernus. You guys banned Infernus.
Let's take out Geist.
They see the door and they're like, take it. Oh,
Wait.
too fast. Too furious.
Second stage patron under assault. Everyone's chained up and blind. Abraham's just putting people in all sorts of pain here towards the very end, and that second stage patron about to go down. Jason, a game 3 is in the works.
It definitely is. Listic might have had a sick shiv against Leviathan, but there's nothing you can do there to defend against this one. And well, Abrahams, they shown they got more in the tank. They got more to bring to the table here. I think a much more favorable composition for them for sure. These like high, difficult execution comps, I feel like just don't work right now necessarily when it comes to Deadlock, as we saw for Buff and Joyers. The Doorman didn't really do much, I feel like. I think the Infernus pick did way more for Abrahams. The Billy pick did way more as a first pick, and I think Abrahams deserved that victory.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I go back to Task having just the absolute hero moment in middle, and again, you look at the eye test from game to game. Empty Dreams on Infernus versus Empty Dreams on Pocket. I feel like Infernus, if nothing else, is giving you a much more consistent baseline to work off of, where, yeah, maybe you don't have the win moment of landing a 4-man affliction, but you don't have the despair of when you don't get that. You get consistent area denial, and I mean, also towards the end, it was a very tanky at first, at over 4k HP, Jason.
Yeah, it was not easy to kill him, and I think it also shows how like strong mentally Empty Dreams was, because in the beginning of that game, like, he got punished time and time again in that lane. Like, he was not allowed to just be free to have a 1v1 against Listic, and even in the 1v1s, he wasn't really necessarily winning because Listic was hitting some really great serrated blades. But then he just kept farming, man. They kept getting some advantageous fights. I think a lot of credit goes to Saint as well. Like, you know, we didn't really talk about Sonya too much, but like Saint's getting around the map quite a bit with his airdrops, I think helped quite a few times. Like, thinking back to one of the opportunities where they sent everyone towards the left-hand side for the Unstable Rift, except they kept Saint and Sonya on the right-hand side. He flies on over. They win that fight. Yes, they lose the Walker, but like momentum was kind of getting there for them. I feel like in that, that's a weird bird.
It just got sniped in mid-bird, courtesy of Arzo. Also, I mean, look, shout out to Guy Give here. While it wasn't the flashiest, Saint had perfectly timed stone forms on some of these key mid-boss fights, and mid-bosses that could have been a crystal or two stolen, which could have flipped the fight. Didn't happen. Just well-timed stone form, as you see right here, opens the way for Abrahams to get all the crystals. And I thought Saint had a remarkably solid game on Ivy, and just, again, nothing flashy, just doing what you need Ivy to do, especially in securing mid-boss. And, you know, to the point you're saying about Doorman, look, Doorman pumps out a lot of damage, But I have had this like thought in the back of my head that, you know, maybe Doorman is a little bit high in draft prio. Like, I think Doorman should be in the game, or at least a mid-stage ban, but when you start putting Doorman up against what you're seeing at times from some of the other top picks, whether it be, you know, Billy, Infernus, or heck, in this game we saw from Tass on the Holiday, I don't know. Like, I don't think Doorman in that position is necessarily like throwing the game or anything, but I think you can have some arguments that maybe it's a little bit over prioritized.
It also does seem like Doorman's harder to play when you're behind. I feel like when you're ahead, you have the ability to just like push objectives and then just door away or use doors to catch out players. But when you're behind, it's okay, we can door back to our base and survive. I feel like it's a lot harder to make those doors really work in your favor to create pick opportunities. Obviously, the fact as well that Cosmetical wasn't really able to get powered up like we've seen in previous games with his GT. He had like plus 16. It's only like 2 stacks at what, if like 20 minutes at least, if not more. But Tass 45k damage. I know you were caught off guard when we looked at this game, expecting Empty Dreams to be a lot higher in player damage. It was Tass leading the way and continued to lead the way, putting out some serious work with this damage, man. That is nothing to scoff at when it just comes to raw numbers. I mean, no one even came close on the side of Buff Enjoyers.
It could have been an even better game for Tass, is a scary part too, because there were like several lassos that were missed that were arguably gimmies over the course of the game. But it kind of goes to show is that, you know, at Holiday's current power scaling, even if not every lasso hits, you could still have a pretty enormous impact on the game. But yeah, I mean, thinking about the draft overall, I think the other thing for Buff Enjoyers is that this was a comp that was pretty vulnerable to getting run at. Like, yeah, Geist is a bit tanky. Shiv, in theory, can be pretty tanky if Shiv gets ahead of the game. But Doorman, GT, even Calico, really, where, you know, Calico wants to go in on someone, but Calico's like pretty bad about actually protecting space. This was a team that was vulnerable to getting run at, and Abraham's had a comp that very much wanted to run at you between the Billy, the Drifter, the Infernus, and arguably even Ivy, the way a lot of these fights broke down with airdrop initiations. I think the biggest weakness of Buff Enjoyer's comp and actually maintaining space was something Abrahams was very well prepared to simply dive in on over and over again.
Say this though, with the Calico, I think Hoot did a really good job though in the first 10-15 minutes of the game. His rotations around the map, going like he pretty much ditched the right lane, if I'm not mistaken. He left Listic alone to go in the 1v1 against Empty Dreams, but he was getting boxes, then attacking mid, then getting boxes and attacking left lane, and he created a lot of kills in the beginning. I feel like he really did. He went like, you know, 6, 11, and 9. He had 9 assists in there. Obviously, a lot of the assists towards the end he lost out on, but the early game pressure was there. It just didn't transition for the rest of the team into something in the mid game that they could work with, or any kind of lead that they could work with.
All right, well, Jason, things have been evened up 1-1, as is often the case between these two teams. I mean, they've been playing each other close recently. Last week's Night Shift went the distance. R1 was a reverse sweep win by Abrahams that went the full 5. When Abrahams plays against Buff Enjoyers, you are just guaranteed to have a knockdown, drag-out fight. Any final thoughts before we go to the break and set up for the final map?
Nope.
All right, there you have it. No thoughts from Jason, but stay tuned.
Oh, God,
the final map is on the way soon. Who's going to take it in Shift 46? You got to stay clocked in to find out. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Night Shift, and we are heading to a map 3, Jason, the ultimate map here in the money match. Abrahams and Buff Enjoyers trading off maps. Buff Enjoyers finding a little bit more trouble against the Infernus relative to when Abrahams prioritized the pocket, and now we'll see what both teams have in store for the final draft for EU on the night.
I wonder if we don't see a Doorman ban this time. Or maybe it depends on who has first pick. Since Buff Enjoyers lost, they get the choice if they want first pick or second pick. But I feel like the Doorman just didn't have the same level of impact that like an Infernus would have had, or like, I mean, I guess the Shiv was played, or like a Billy would have had. And maybe, as you were talking about before, maybe we need to get together off Billy, and maybe Listic needs to play it and then force Taylor to play something else here, because the Billy has been doing some serious work throughout the entire night. But I'm maybe hoping to see some changes in the draft. Like the GT didn't work, the Doorman didn't work in my opinion. This just was okay. I think that the Calico was, well, I think it worked pretty well. But they definitely fell behind, and I feel like Zergy, I mean, I can't even focus on him actually in particular. Like he was decently ahead, but what can he do as a solo Geist? Really nothing.
I think in combination, though, they end up with a draft that was like pretty squishy when you end up with both Calico and GT and then like Doorman on top of it. Like, I think the Doorman in a vacuum, arguably pretty fine, even with what we've seen overall in the draft. But I think when you start adding on these other heroes, you kind of created this composition that either needed to get really ahead in the early mid game or simply fall. And also, again, we kind of called on the draft that the level of execution required for Buff Enjoyers to make their draft work, I think was pretty considerably lower than the level of execution that Abrahams had to come in with. But either way, we'll see what lessons are learned. I believe the draft is ready, so we're just gonna get into it and see what adaptations have been made.
I'm ready, ZP. Ready for the draft. You built it up. I'm hyped and ready to go. But I don't think the draft's ready yet, ZP.
It's soon, I believe. We can summon it into existence with good thoughts.
Why is the music getting quieter?
Wow, the music has just been ripped out.
Is this like where like the boss fight comes? You know, like the music goes down, and all of a sudden you get like a new sound or a new song coming in.
No, this is where the new content patch drops in the middle of night shift. 8 new heroes have just dropped. Slork, what's going on here? Unbelievable. And no, actually, like Valve hacks the game, and Slork actually shows up on one of the.
Interesting. What else can production do to us?
Well,
whoa.
Where are we going?
Moving.
Goodbye.
That's how my wife I loved her.
Jason, at this
we're
size,
really
we would get devoured by any insect in the area. Like, this is. Oh.
Okay. Bro, ZP's 40. What does the 38 matter?
I don't know. You're the one getting called out.
What does that matter? Because I got souvenirs behind me. I got like a Teemo. I got Ninja Turtle because when I was a kid, that was my Ninja Turtle Raphael. What? What low 2? What?
I don't know if that was low 2. I think that was all solid.
No, it's definitely low 2.
Okay, surely the draft is ready
your
now.
mom thing, I think. No, he said it's him. He said it's him. Because definitely low 2's not doing anything else besides focusing on the show right now. We're almost through the draft, right? We're almost ready to go. Maybe we can actually take a look at the format really quickly, the brackets, and talk about what's coming up, because this isn't the last game of the day, right? We still have more to come. We have the whole North American portion of the show with Get Candy finally making it through the qualifiers to take on FPS Lounge, the previous champions of Night Shift in number 44. And the winner of that goes on to take a chance, a swing at Melee Creeps, who we don't even know if they know who they're playing with as their 6 today.
Oh, we did get the update. So I got the update from Saya in the middle of the last match. Lord NM is still in, so he's made through the first round of trials, and it's League subbing in for Do. Now, this is again goes to the proud history of Melee Creeps just being the absolute dumbest team at dealing with technology, whether it be Ido putting in a video card the wrong way, or now Do having a keyboard break and then not within a lead time of 4 hours, not being able to conjure any solution to get a new keyboard within that period of time. No favors to be had, or Do just lives in a desert where the nearest tech store, the nearest Walmart is actually about 5 hours away. Either way, Do breaking the keyboard completely took Do out for the day. No replacement keyboard could be found, and that's why League is subbing in for Do later today for Melee Creeps in the NA Money match.
I think it's an excuse. I think Dude just doesn't want to play with Lord and M, and you know what? I can understand it. Who wants to play with Lord and M? There, said it. Mic dropped. Band's in. Draft ready to go. Let's jump into it.
Alrighty. Well, the draft is ready. The fill is over. And now we'll see what's coming in for Buff Enjoyers. They open up with the ban on Doorman, and if you're Abrahams, I think you just ban Pocket. Surely you don't want to play it after what we saw earlier today, and
ban
go
Furnace
from there.
If you can't get it.
I don't think you ban Furnace. I think you get in Furnace with your first 2 picks, and I don't think Buff Enjoyers get first pick it. No, I think you ban Pocket.
Oh, they banned Mirage. Okay. Same route as last time. Interesting.
All right. Well, for Buff Enjoyers, with Mirage off the table, do they go Billy? They've been prioritizing Billy, or rather Mirage over Billy, but they're not going to prioritize anyone else over Billy. But this opens up Abrahams now to get Infernus +1. Do they still go with the Pocket? Like, I feel like this is Buff Enjoyers just daring Abrahams to be like, you want to pick the Pocket again, don't you? You want to go pocket,
No, there's
and
no
based on what we
way.
saw in game 1, I feel like you don't want the pocket, but instead they're going to go Shiv and Furnace here, Jason. That would be my ideal for Abrahams.
Yeah, it has to be Shiv and Furnace, and then I feel like Buffingers need to respond with like a Viscous +1, but I don't know off the top of my head yet what the +1 would necessarily be. Oh, they do go pocket again. Okay, so would Furnace and Viscous?
And Furnace Viscous, or if you really want to unleash Obakim, you could get the Apollo. Again, because Abraham has shown that they're going to ban the Apollo mid-stage bans no matter what. So if for whatever reason you want to get Obakim on that hero, you actually have to pick it now. But the Infernus is off the board for Buff Enjoyers, and we'll see what they pair it up with. They also could steal the Holiday here, because Tass was a problem in the last game.
I'm still here. I just want to say Drifter in top 3.
I mean, Drifter's been winning today.
Oh.
It's hard to argue with the results of Drifter today, where...
Well, I mean, now they can ban... I mean, they don't need to ban Apollo. I mean, I guess they still technically can, but it could be... It probably would be an Obi-Kim Drifter then, right? And then Listic on Billy.
Perhaps. I mean, I think they have multiple ways of playing. I think if Apollo is still open, they could still configure their setup to where you had someone else on Drifter and Obikim could still play the Apollo.
I want to see them ban Viscous instead.
They could, yeah. And they do.
What do you take away from Buff Joris? I mean, the Ivy was... It did work, for sure, but maybe... No, I don't think they're going to play Ivy if they have Drifter already, if Obikim's going to be on it.
I think Buff Enjoyers actually could ban Ivy of the things that are still available here, but no, they ban...
That also works.
Yeah. I mean, so far, Buff Enjoyers have the far easier to execute composition, in my mind. Like, Billy and Furnace and Drifter, you already have a good amount of the just run at them composition. Abraham's gonna go with the Calico of their own. I mean, it definitely gives them more early mid-game power for sure, and it takes off the table for Buff Enjoyers because Vrake still needs a hero. So I think if they didn't pick the Calico, it's possible it would have went to Buff Enjoyers with Viscous being off the board.
The day for mercy.
There's your flyer. Finally. Maybe. Possibly. Going to Hoot for Vindicta. Who knows? We're not going to know until we're in-game fully, man. But Vin, I don't hate, because you can't take away mobility from Shiv, you take away mobility from Calico, you make it easy to dive Venator.
Have fun, darling.
I've finally seen a Vin pick here in shift number 46.
And the Geist very well could be for Zergy. But we'll see what Abrahams decides to round out the draft with here.
Is it going to be... Go on.
No, it's taking some wild twists and turns. You know, Paige is actually making a comeback too in EU. It was more Irizumi that was playing it, but I'm kind of looking at the heroes here. You still need a hero for Saint, and Ivy is still on the board. I'd probably prefer Ivy after we saw last game. I think the Ivy actually worked out really, really well. But we'll see. What hero do we get for Saint? And yeah, it's going to be Ivy.
I'm not 100% sure Geist is going to be Zergy though. I'm not like 100% convinced, because I'm still thinking we could see Cosmetical Geist again and Zergy and Furnace.
Yes, and they've run that combination before in scrims, so it's still pretty flexible. But the Apollo comes in, so yeah, Obakim's like, no, give me the Apollo. I want to play it. It's finally not banned, and yeah, I asked for a little bit of the backstory on it, and from Buff Enjoyers, they just said, yeah, Obakim just thinks the hero's good. That's it. It's not actually any deeper than that.
So is that a Vrake Drifter or a Vrake Billy? I think it's probably gonna be a Vrake Billy, right? And then it's gonna be Listic on Drifter.
I don't know. I think it may just be Listic Billy.
I don't know. We'll see. I think like the Apollo, I think I almost want to say like a decent way to help deal with Calico, because again, you have like high mobility as Apollo. Similar to what Calico can do in the like the early game here, running around the map. And I don't think we've seen Obakim doing that though. I don't think we've seen him roaming between these different lanes like we saw in the last game out of Hoot. But in comps, I don't know, man. I feel like this is probably the most normal, even comp we've seen so far in all the matches we've had in EU. Like they seem both pretty damn strong.
I think I do favor the Buff and Jor's comp a little bit more simply because I think the ability to just run at the point right now with Billy and Furnace is pretty wild and just generally take favorable trades with Drifter. I think the comp that Buff and Jor's is running is going to be giving Hoot enormous amounts of space on the Vindicta. Like, effectively for Vin, the main thing that you have to worry about is getting swapped in this combo. So as you don't get swapped, you're going to have plenty of room in most scenarios.
I'm kind of favoring
Obviously-
Abraham's, actually. I don't know if you want to finish your thought before I go into my...
I mean, the thing for Abraham's is, like, obviously if you have good pocket performance, it shifts everything. But game one, the pocket, the approach to playing pocket didn't seem great to me. And I just think in terms of ease execution, Buff and Joris has like a lot of easy ways to make this comp work.
Well, okay, I definitely can't deny that when it came to game one with the pocket, for sure. But one thing I do see out of Abraham's is they have a lot of objective control. The fact that you can time bomb, stone form, you have affliction, you have slice and slices, you have gut shots, you have enter the shadows or return. You know, you have a lot of big damage and a lot of big control when it comes to that mid pit in particular. If you do go for, you know, mid bosses, where on the other side you have combustion and chain gang and maybe like a tether. I mean, obviously Tiny Losan is going to do a lot of work as well in that situation. With the curse is extremely helpful if you can catch out on Saint with the Ivy. But I'm giving like the slight edge when it comes to mid boss control, like to Abraham's here. But as I'm like talking about, I'm kind of maybe rethinking when it comes to objectives like the unstable rifts. Who would I really favor in more of an open area? And I think I maybe would lean towards Buff Enjoyers.
Yeah, I think for Abraham's, they certainly have ability to apply pressure in the early mid game between swaps and Calco getting people's faces. You have also plays with Ivy and airdrop that can be a little bit scarier than expected. I think Buff Enjoyers, though, they also have a relatively simple game plan of win lane, where they have an enormous amount of really like their lane presence is really good in their game. Their ability to simply take fights by walking forward is actually unparalleled. Abraham's has to work a lot harder with their composition to make things work, which isn't impossible in this situation, but I think there's a lot of pressure, in particular on the pocket, especially in some of the mid-team fights, and also not throwing afflictions away like we saw in game one. And there's also quite a bit of pressure on Calco and Paradox to kind of make opportunities happen. Buff Enjoyers, if the game is just static and nothing ridiculous happens, actually is working at a pretty big advantage here. So, you know, the win conditions I think are there for Abraham's. I don't think like either team is necessarily out of line power level wise. Like comes down to execution. But I think the likelihood of Buff Enjoyers having the execution they want is definitely higher than what Abraham's has in this comp. Like Abraham's, the comp like requires definitely trickier play, and you know, I think a few more things to go their way.
I think Hoot's definitely the X factor here for Buff Enjoyers. As you kind of touched before, Paradox swap is going to be important, but also I'm looking towards like, I mean, I don't know, even Ivy can do decently well, I guess, if you're going to dive in for Vindicta. But who are you going to bring with you? Is it going to bring, is it Calico you're bringing with you? I think a lot of it goes down to like how Abrams can deal with who and how Buff Enjoyers can protect who. In this case, I feel like there's going to be a dive for sure into the backline for him. But he definitely makes some good points about the way these engagements can go. And luckily, we're going to be heading into games, so we don't have to film much more than that, because I didn't really know where to go from there until we saw who was actually going to be on who and how this game would play out. But finally, we're going into the final game of the series here.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a good one. A lot of ways this can play out. Good win opportunities for both teams, and we'll see who comes out on top and what is, again, turning out to be another classic between these two teams. Just week after week, putting on a good show, especially though on the latest patch where, you know, within R1 in the last week of Night Shift, these two teams you can't really get closer than what we've seen, Jason.
On a random note here, I noticed Hydration was streaming again. I think apparently he was having some like internet problems, which we haven't, you know, seen him around a long time. And he's like switching providers, but I'm curious if you've heard any news about any potential workings of a team for him.
I got no idea, but the way NA goes, I'm sure Rocker will be on a brand new team in about a month, and that team will go in and win NA Night Shift out of nowhere. I mean, it's happened like 3 times so far, so I'm kind of a believer in the Rocker takes a break, comes back and wins, and I think, you know, future Rocker team would probably have Hydration on it given past history, but who knows?
Bro, Hydronation, if they went under that name again, would be like so fitting, because you keep thinking it's dead, but it comes back with a new head every time.
Yeah.
That'd be
I mean,
pretty sick.
NA's gotten like pretty well mixed up at this point. The only team that's been effectively its own thing for a while is Melee Creeps, but like the non-Melee Creeps teams, I mean, you have like a 1500s European royalty family tree going on right now between the teams. Like it is all mixed up at this point.
I mean, it's also mixed up. We had a player not be able to join, so we have to remake again. Make sure everyone's on their correct heroes so we can hop back into game. It seems like this night might be cursed, but you know what? We still have NA to come up, and it could. Is it possible? We have the fabled back-to-back weeks of 8 maps.
I think it's really possible, especially Melee Creeps looking, in a word, volatile with no do and playing this week, and Lord NM, where, I mean, Lord NM, we saw like the highest highs and the lowest lows last week. All of which is to say is that when you have that level of volatility, a map 3, I think, is like pretty darn likely.
You know, I'm going to really challenge production here, ZP. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's no way they have this ready. But can we roll back a Lord and M highlight reel from last week on his Viscous, if we still have that? I doubt we have it, but that would be so funny if Solomon had that ready to go. Because you're talking about highs and lows. That his Viscous was definitely a low, but as you said before, he hasn't played it since like 2024. He knew he wouldn't be able to play it well, but they put him on it anyways, and they eventually fixed that in the next game by having Saya play the Viscous instead, and he got silver.
Oh boy. Just tell productions like, hey, the game's not ready. Can we get the time where just Lord NM got splattered all over the cursed apple?
Let's roll it back to the floormen and the original floormen with Lord NM and Torment dying in mid pit face down. No, I don't think that's I don't think it's in the cards, though. The longer we sit on the screen, the more convinced I am that Solomon is getting it ready to go.
I mean, look, waiting for the players, and these things happen, especially on a long series.
Oh, I see his mouse working.
What's up?
I see Solomon's mouse working. It actually might be happening. I don't know. Maybe Solomon can tell me.
Or he may be about to get in game. What about that?
That's also true. You know what I want to do at some point, ZP? I want to hit up the movement community in this game and have like a very special night shift where we have a custom map made that's night shift branded, and we invite like 10 movement players in the game to all compete. They have 1 hour at the same time. They have to stream, and they see who can beat it the quickest. And we just go from like each stream, taking a look at all the runs that they're doing, and then at the very end, like, 'cause we'll have an in-game leaderboard of time, we can see who can beat it the quickest. That'd be so sick.
We got options.
Yeah.
Production was saying something, I'm not sure what, but we're still waiting for the lobby to be fully set up. But Jason, the wait is over.
I had more to talk
finally, the fill has come to an end. Of course, at stake here in the money match is half of the prize pool per region is $2,000 base. You can add to the prize pool via !donate, should you wish. But that is what the teams are playing for right now. A cold $1,000 here in EU. We'll see who's playing what, but no one's surprised here, Jason. Hoot on the flyer, and this is what we saw in scrims during the week. A lot of Hoot on GT and Vindicta and the Vindicta command, but actually in this case, it is going to be Obakim on the Drifter and Vrake on the Apollo. So even though Obakim played Apollo the last 5 times we saw Buff and Joyers play, this time around the Apollo just giving up to Vrake.
I mean, the thing is, Vrake was also playing Apollo as well before Obakim on this team, so it's kind of cool that they both have that overlap. But we did get it right though. Cosmetical going to be on the Geist and Zergy going to be on the Infernus. On the other side though, kind of what we expected. I mean, there's really nothing too crazy, nothing too controversial about who's on who here. The Abraham side, and Sonic going to be living that roaming life like we saw Hoot before on that Calico.
In this case, Sanya going to be a little bit, more in control of their own destiny relative to when they were on Lash in game 1 and just getting dove on every 2 seconds. But, the big question mark here, of course, is that Empty Dreams taking the crack at Pocket again. Was game 1 an outlier in terms of missed afflictions or counterspelled afflictions, or, was it a preview of what's to come here in game 3? The Pocket question probably the biggest one of all right now is Listic. Is he in a handful of damage here at the beginning? Hoot providing a bit of cover, but it's not enough. I think Listic just ticked down from the knives.
Yeah, I think so. Very scary lane. Very brawly. No, not Dragon Ball. For Abraham's here with the Shiv and a Calico together. I mean, who I feel like can't really provide too much. It was a really good tether though to keep Sonya away, but it didn't matter in the end, as you saw. So good start here for Abraham's. Extra regen, extra charge here picked up right off the bat for together. And you know, I still don't know who I would call the best Shiv in EU. I think when it comes to NA, it's kind of due. But EU, man, I feel like we're just treated by so many insanely good Shiv players that it's really difficult.
I think when it comes to comp play, and you know, you take away what people play in their spare time, and the Shivs we've seen the most in comp, it's like Together and Freemock are basically up for it because they have been, you have Together as like the quintessential original Shiv main in EU, and then Freemock who's kind of carried the torch for a while. Though Freemock's been playing less Shiv recently. You know, Freemock we've seen more on pick characters, so that may be changing a little bit. If anything, we've kind of gone back to the old norm with Together, you know, being able to play a little bit more Shiv as of late. And speaking about Together, a few knives for your trouble here in onto Listic. Looking for a second knife and get a parry for the trouble.
Bro, I don't know how that parry
hit. He's
that looks so far away.
Listic's HP just melted.
Well, he gets away, but Hoot's not able to capitalize on this one. And actually, Hoot might be under some pressure now. You can still see it's Together off to the side. Look at the health bars on the top hand side of your screen. Everyone is just so low right now. As St. Ars will chime in getting kills. Zergi's responding onto one with Empty Dreams. That was on the right hand side. Mid lane's lost a player. I don't know what's happening in this game right now, ZP. Every lane's fighting at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's trade outs back and forth, but so far it's been a bit of an edge to Abraham's. Not to the point that you have significant game consequences here just yet, but I do think for Abraham's, you kind of like the start here so far. I mean, the buff enjoyer's win condition of just being able to leverage the fact that you can be a little bit more aggressive in walking at the enemy team, it goes away if you're playing from behind. Like, buff enjoyers with their comp really desperately does not want to fall significantly behind. You might go, is that every composition? Well, even more so with the win conditions that buff enjoyers has in this game, as right now I see Vrake going for a little bit of poke and running for his life thereafter.
Oh, damage taken there too.
I see shit.
And it doesn't seem to be over just yet. As we have the buffs coming on up, and it looks like Abraham's going to be getting both here. Mars is going to be getting the right hand side. He gets gun. Oh, that's perfect. And casting for, oh my god, these are like the perfect buffs right now for the perfect players on Abraham's side. This is disgusting.
Yeah, especially the casting buff on Together. Gun buff, you know, even on the right hero, be a little bit underwhelming in the beginning of the game, but casting buff on Shiv, never going to turn your nose up on that. You see a little bit of the mid lane battle right now, and you know, Cosmetical eating a bit of poke, trying to throw a little bit back. Abraham's actually pretty healthy in mid here so far.
Yeah, they got a kill, I believe, as well. Just on the Cosmetical because Rake left the lane to go assist. And we're obviously past the 3-minute mark here. I'm actually trying to keep an eye on Sonya if he's going to roam around this map at all and look for these boxes like we've had Hoot do, or is he just going to continue to punish this lane the best he can? Because there's really not that big of a lead created for them on this left-hand side, even though they had the initial kills.
Combustive Combustion in here on the left, answered by an Iradomini, courtesy of Arzo. Seen Zergi get real low in off some of the pressure, but still able to take down Empty Dreams with the Inhobikim. Somehow, someway, Zergi getting away with the slimmest of margins. Elsewhere, though, we're seeing Hoot getting knifed up, courtesy of Together.
I feel like Zergi just got away with murder right there. Like, he should not have been able to survive that one. Obviously, cost him his teammate's life as they do trade 1-for-1, but Zergi's definitely the one you want to see kept alive. Meantime, Empty Dreams gets a kill in towards middle, being airdropped away. It's completely separating them from this Guardian, but it looks like Zergi's actually come back in towards the lane here. He's got to be extremely careful trying to defend against this one. It's a 3-man squad. Vrake will be returning as well. Cosmetical's there, so they have a 3-on-3 in mid, leaving this right lane into a 1-on-1.
A lot being traded out back and forth, but also the return of the single man affliction, courtesy of Empty Dreams. Now, in this case, affliction's gonna be back up before first rift, and oof, jump scare for Vrake. Tess going for the raw swap, doesn't quite connect. Everything being
He
left on
riposted the
table on
Kinetic
mid.
Carbine there, so he didn't actually get stunned up for that swap. Was really, like, I don't know how he hit that. I would never hit that in my life, but as you guys saw, I'm also 38, so I'm an unk washed up. It's not the oldest one on broadcast, though.
Look, it's about how you look and feel. The number, a little bit irrelevant, but as we look over to the left, talking about rotation, Sanya, we come back in towards the left. We'll see if it turns into more of a dive on Vin. On your screen, though, is mid lane, and good solid Guardian damage coming in from Buff Enjoyers. But potentially the turn about to come in from Abraham's.
Yeah, Sonya getting in behind them. Turn to Shadows being used, and not really much being netted from that. The cosmetical at mid lane is extremely low. Maybe looking for a swap here would be ideal. And it seems like Rake's just trying to create the space as well. But I think it's like Cosmetical can't really assist, and he can't really sneak up to look for a swap either. And there's just so much poke that they don't need to get in his face to allow a swap to happen.
The matchup for Geist is always interesting, where you have to respect a Geist low HP of swap, like vulnerable and killable, but it does create this, aura of like, well, there's a limit to how far deep we can go. But elsewhere, Chain Gang coming on out deep into it. Currently is Listic, but also a knife in the back, low HP. The killing blow attempt from the back and together. Lands a shotgun hit to finish things off. 250 HP, not the healthiest, but gives Liv to tell the tale. A little bit of Calco pressure onto Vin as this happens, but also across the map, Jason Obikim finds Empty Dreams.
I mean, who again? He had a good tether. It caught it onto Sonya, but it didn't stop together from just rushing down that kill. And it's not a great sign right now when Listic is the lowest eco on the team. As you mentioned, Obikim not writing it down this time like we saw before, right? Against Leviathan, not holding perma W without an S key in sight. And together he's come for a vengeance, or with the vengeance. He takes down Obikim for another kill added to the tally. Radiant Region already picked up, and this right lane is now starting to be pressured quite heavily by the rotations.
Yeah, you might have caused that, Jason. You go here, it's like, Obikim, not running it down right as we see Obikim himself getting run down a second later. But elsewhere, Empty Dreams, a little bit under the gun. Flawless advance into Tani Losan.
He dodged it.
Yeah, I don't think it hit. Wait, also drop the affliction, which also hit nothing. A whiffed ult for a whiffed ult. Balance, as intended. Now we got Sanya coming in a little bit later to fight, return the shadow, but not gonna commit because of the threat of the Vindicta.
Crazy briefcase, man. Coming on through to dodge away from the Tiny Lasad, and that's also still going to be kills happening on the left-hand side here for Abrahams. They're up to a 5k lead 10 minutes in. I only just noticed at the top of the screen here that they're that far ahead. These lanes have been heavily going the way, and Arsenal's at 9,000 souls already. Son is at 8.1. Engineer's at 5.4. Okay, so he's going to be the lowest net worth in the game. Or she's not even lowest net worth in the game. It's going to be Rake at 5.1, but this is getting scary for Buff and Joy's. Abrahams have, together on good souls, Arzo on good souls, and Sonya. This is shaping up to be a very strong mid game.
Also, look at all the heal banes coming up from Buff Enjoyers. The team heal bane buy. Tess getting marked up, hanging on the wall until it's used. And elsewhere, the dive successful from Sanya onto Hoot. A quick dine and dash as the urn is available, and Listic just goes for the quick dunk. That actually helps even things out a little bit, but still Buff Enjoyers down 7k and potentially about to be more as another Guardian in peril, courtesy of Abrahams.
At least it's a 1-for-1 trade in Guardians, as the right one was taken for Buff Enjoyers. At the same time, Abraham's got the left. But yeah, like this mid game is, I think, what I'm mostly scared about right now for Buff Enjoyers, and where Abrahams, I think, can really create a big lead. Like where their soul location is, it's like a perfect opportunity for them to just start looking for these engagements, looking for these catches, more importantly, and creating an even bigger lead to transition with towards that first mid boss. With that rift on the left-hand side ZP, I actually don't know which team's even going to go for it.
I think Buff Enjoyers, you go for it here. You get the advantage of being behind, although the dive, Hoot running for his very life from the Calco pressure. Gloom bombs from afar. Not quite going to be enough, and low bridge. Here comes Listic in on some of the punish, perhaps. Rift secured by Buff Enjoyers in the middle of this fight. Going to actually be a decent amount of Rift troopers heading out from this. Overcame down, and it's still Sanya looking for the exit, not to be found, but even as Sanya dies, Together is able to even the score against Cosmetical elsewhere.
And they also get a guard on the right-hand side. So, I mean, 7K, it's about to be turned a little bit less than that with this Guardian falling, even though they did tweak the objective income that you get now. So 6K at 12 minutes is definitely, I would say, significant enough lead. And Zergi's at 11,000 souls. Ours is still continuing to ramp up at 13K. When those initial Guardians being down, the only one left is going to be in that mid lane here for Abrahams to defend. Probably the best one to have up at this point.
Oh, it's going to be a quick pause from the most farmed player on the Abraham side saying mosquito attack. You know, that's technically, players are supposed to say tech pause or rules pause. I actually have no idea where mosquito attack would go in there. I mean, it's not nothing in the rules against getting attacked by mosquitoes. I guess it's more of a tech pause where you're unable to play the game because you're just getting crushed by mosquitoes.
I understand it. Honestly, Italy has so many mosquitoes that I cannot go outside without being bit. The first day I looked at this apartment, I got bit 13 times. It was ridiculous. Not even kidding.
All right, and this is
here's the briefcase
the
escape.
case dodge. Yeah. Oh my goodness, the time.
Oh, and he dodges the snipe too.
Yeah, and then throws frogs on the nothing. So again, a little bit of balance towards the end. Lisic gets away from the stone form, brings out the chain gang, and no chains. Maybe a bit of problem. It's just defending territory here. Your own gambling, as it were.
I already saw one Guardian ward being picked up. I think that was on Hoot. So we have at least one DB carrier for buff enjoyers, which is going to be important. I mean, the counter spells aren't being bought up just yet, I believe, for them either. I think it's a little bit too early in the game, so the affliction could go ham here. And it is up. Eternal Song connects, but not to finish off together. He's gonna be bleeding away, and Hoot finishes off the kill with the assassinate at plus 18 now on his snipes. There's 2 kills coming on through here. Definitely the boost to morale buff enjoyers needed to get back in this one.
Break though, gonna be traded out. Sanya a little bit later to the fight. Marked up by Drifter, not in the healthiest spot at all as the floor is lava. Sanya melted away as Zergi makes the battlefield very inhospitable. And this is turning into a full rotation on both teams. Everyone in the middle as Abrahams tries to maintain control of their mid guardian. Up this lane to the game, kind of an accomplishment, but also pretty easy to take down at any moment in attention at this point.
Yeah, and only 3K difference in souls too, so it's that Guardian falling. I mean, it's closed down to like a 1K difference between the two. But while this has all been happening, it's also important to keep an eye on who's been solo farming. Like Arzo was pulled to the mid lane to help assist. He's now been pushed back towards the right-hand side. He's at 17,000 souls at 14 minutes, almost 15. That is an unreal level of farm.
Also, let's get a casual 2K HP at only 12K farm, just to, throw in observations on the game. Billy, at times, a little bit, not dependent on the amount of farm, but Ern's gonna spawn up here. Mark a little bit off target, but you know it isn't. The stake into the snipe, into the death. Hoot setting up another. The last 3 or 4 minutes here, Jason, pretty advantageous here. The Hoot as Buff Endurance has effectively bridged the gap.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like almost all the kills have been going the way of Buff Enjoyers these last couple of minutes, as you mentioned. Iradomi, oh my gosh, Obi comes right behind him. Ren comes on through. He's just going to take away 1K damage already taken. Actually gets the assist, gets the kill here. They turn this one around. Obi Kim does fall, and Saint has the urn while all this is happening. Not going to be a massive lead created if he's able to get the dunk here. But Abraham's, I mean, it honestly felt like if they keep losing these fights and they don't have any bounce back, then they could just be losing this game. But the snowball potential for Buff Enjoyers.
Buff Enjoyer is also maintaining the full-on protection on Mid Guardian. It is nearly 16 minutes. Mid Guardian still up.
I see Ivy.
Maybe a contest onto the Ivy dunk here, though. Cosmetical, not wanting to give it away for free. Soul exchange, waiting in the wings.
Is he just missed every shot on that minion?
Minions are tough, Jason.
Just recalculating the DPI or something on his mouse. It was like a speck of dust. They're going to continue to push on through here. They want to take this urn away, and they want to look for the fight. And Combustion to lead the way here out of Zergi's going to get the catch on ours, and they take down the most farm player on Abraham's side. a good start as they earn. Still in the hands of Saint though, and they're not able to actually dislodge this one. As together he's looking for some damage. Slice on through. Cosmetical's going to survive for just a split second, and the kill's going back the way of Abraham's here, ZP.
One man affliction on the Vrake. Vrake, though, looking awfully low towards the end. The urn disappears into the ether, unable to be turned in, but might not be a problem here for Abrahams. They're able to make the rest of the fight their way. Killing blow hits on the Listic, and while this is going on, you got Empty Dreams just taking a walker by his lonesome.
But the mid garden has finally gone down. It was to minions though, ZP. It held up a good fight, 17 minutes. The walker on the right has been taken. Empty Dreams up to 18,000 souls now. That lead back to 6k here in favor of Abraham's. It seems to just be constantly bouncing back and forth. Let's actually take a look at the soul graph once we have a moment here to see how much it's been swinging between these two teams.
The interesting thing is some of these fights, I mean, Hoot has been getting a lot of value off the Vindicta, even though we've seen Abraham's take a little bit more control of the game. Oh, Zergi's got Sanya dead the rights here. No real escape. But in some of the closer fights, Hoot, with both stakes and just assassinates, has been confirming kills in a wild way, and also making life at times pretty hard for Together, as one of the few things that can do significant damage to a Shiv.
Man, he's only at 14k. Seems like Shivs in this series just aren't, at least in this match and the last, are just not running away with the games that we saw versus Leviathan with Buff Enjoyers. To be fair, you don't really see, I think, games like that, a 20-1 scoreline at a Listic that often. Maybe if Arctic's playing Shiv. The Buff Enjoyers seem to be set up in mid lane here, expecting an engage. At the same time, Abrahams are looking for the engage themselves. They get a nice stun here on the kinetic charge.
Look at the service. Also, Tanya Losan not hitting Ivy. Everything on the task, who gets the full service escape. Abraham's also trying to turn that on the Vrake. Vrake, a little bit lower HP wise, eating some knives for his trouble. And this is just turned into a longer fight here in middle. Abraham's has rotated 4 members in the mid now. People back on out. A lot of sinners up on the map here now too, Jason. So some gambling might be in order.
A bad time to gamble though when the rift's up. So that might be its own gamble. Currently have, was that Sonya there, Cosmetical there, Vrake, gonna be reinforcing it. Buff Enjoyers are still grouped up in the mid. Thing is, they already lost their walker on the right hand side, so it's not that big of a deal for them to commit a lot of players towards this rift. But if you can force Abrahams to do the same here, it might allow Zergi to push down a walker himself. That affliction, it is up, so it's a little bit dangerous here for Buff Enjoyers to contest, especially when you don't have a lot of counter spells built up.
You gotta watch Empty Dreams. Empty Dreams is the story here. Even as we see Sanya Gang run down, what affliction opportunity do you have as Sanya? This could be your moment. And the Rift just, they're not able to stand the point. They'll go for it. This call was made to actually back off here, Jason. So what could have been the big team fight, big affliction moment was, nah, just let them have it. We'll kill the Men in Black.
I feel like they had the players there to do it as well. I mean, we could see Zergi was nowhere to be seen. Airdrop coming on through the affliction. Gonna connect only onto one, only onto Obikim. And it's one more. That's not enough necessarily to guarantee win the fight here as Listic takes down Task right off the bat, and the full-on disengage comes in out of Abraham's. I hate to say it, but man, Empty Dreams has been underperforming when it's come to Pocket with these afflictions, mostly because we've seen him hit some crazy afflictions consistently in the past, but today's been really tough.
Also, I don't think we're at the point where there's a bunch of counter spells bought or anything. I think that is just, it might just be all Empty Dreams, but a little bit of poke and prying from Sanya, doesn't full commit onto Hoot. As tempting as the half HP Vindicta is, and could just be an easy dunk here for Vrake. It is. So the game effectively now, Jason, brought back to even with a few of those souls being denied.
Crazy to imagine as well, considering how this game was going. We saw Abrahams with 8k lead for such a long time. I do want to see that Souls graph again if we can, when we have a moment, just to see how kind of close this game and how back and forth this game has been between the two teams. And I mean it's mostly blue, but you are seeing like the constant dips. I guess they're not dips when they're like that down, going down towards the bottom side of the graph. And even Buff Enjoyers taking the lead at some point, but to claw back that lead of like 8,000, it's not easy to do. But here we go, Eternal Darkness being used, airdrop as well, and Zergi Combustion's ready to go, but he's being chased down by Sam. He gets the kill on the Listic. And Zergi's been forced to, what, retreat? Cosmetic's
He's
pushing a walker.
no,
What's
he's
happening?
the crossbow shot from Arzo takes away half his life. That's a farm Venator and then some towards the end. And with 2 down, especially the Billy, I mean, a lot of the AoE that you would use to control mid-boss is off the table in Abraham's. They sent some blood in the water. However, it's going to be contested. Break into the fray. We'll see how this mid-boss goes. Abraham's right now focused on mid-boss damage. Buff enjoyers. We'll see how serious a contest is. There's members lurking in the wings, but they may just let this one go. First rejuve going over to Abraham's. 2 crystals here so far, and the third at the same time. 1 crystal is burned, but otherwise it's all Abraham's from here. The contest for buff enjoyers ending in misery.
Great gut shot too to start things off as you saw an Arzo. Whoa, okay. A slam coming on through to Listic as he's trying to like 1v6. Try to take away any of these rejuves if possible. Arzo is looking worse for wear. He gets the parry though, and Listic won't get a single one. And Buff Enjoyer is getting completely wiped out. They get a walker, yes, but they lose the rejuves. They lose all 6 players. Okay. So affliction on a Zergi?
Why? What is the purpose of this affliction, Jason?
I kind of get it. Because Tass and Arzo were low, and I think maybe they didn't want to lose their rejuves if Zergi went in. Because that's why Listic went in, right? Is he wanted to take away those rejuve crystals. That's I mean, I'm stretching my thought process here, but I can see a world that does make sense.
I'm just thinking back to the past, like, how long has it been since FD has been, super consistent in pocket? Because this is just, even with Abraham's winning, decisions like this can come back to bite you pretty badly. And even here with the mid boss going the way of Abraham's, it's still only about a 9k difference between both teams. You're gonna have affliction off the table for a while. So this goes for now, looking for Cosmetical, who actually looks to be very free at this point. No soul exchange ready to go. So the rest of the dive happens, but going to be difficult to escape, especially with the Iradomini popped out by Cosmetical, giving his best shot under fire from all ends. Surely is about to go down, but somehow still alive here, Jason. And the Rejuve Crystal burned out of Empty Dreams. That is wild. Cosmetical still somehow dancing around. May finally go down, but that was torturous to complete.
Bruh, that's all I can say to that, man. That's unfortunate. Cost him 1 Rejuve, but they still get the kill. It's not that big of a deal, but it obviously should have been a lot cleaner than it inevitably became. As Zergi was trying to look for some damage from this walker, but again, like the wave's been cut. He has to retreat and stay safer. They could be losing a lot more than just his life. 11k now. Almost 25 minutes into the game. It seems like Abraham's might be going for a push onto this mid walker, and they also have spotted out Zergi too. But little do they know, the rest of Buff Enjoyers are going to be in this position. Only Vray going to be missing at the moment.
Maybe another trip back to found here for Arzo. Chain Gang coming out from Listic, who is under all sorts of pressure. Billy may be tough, but may not that tough. 15 HP and down. Arzo in off the respawn, able to avenge himself for losing crystal. 15 seconds left. On Rejuve, though, all the crystals are now burned, so that doesn't matter much anymore. Concussive Concussion, though, in from Zergi a little bit later into the fight. How's this going on? This is getting a little bit scrappy. The parry from Hoot doesn't matter. Sanya still had the damage. And now, taking a look at together, hungry for a little bit more, throws a knife into the back of Zergi, switches directions, and now going for Cosmetical. The swap is up here, though, immediately going to be used from Cosmetical, but the extra life is not enough to keep Cosmetical alive. May just be in this case.
Buys them some time for now, at least. But they still keep losing players. I mean, this like last exchange that we just had happen, the catch onto like Listic and Obikim, I feel like maybe should have happened. I think Buff Enjoyers got a little bit too cocky. Push into the jungle like that when they knew Abraham's had players there in the vicinity. They run them down. They create a lead from, what was it, like 9k after the mid boss was taken to now about 14k. If I can do math, yes, I can do math. Slowly increasing, but more importantly, like Abraham's getting these kills allows them to target more jungle around the map more safely.
Yeah, on the same note, though, I think like this is still pretty playable for Buff Enjoyers. Like Abraham's working at an advantage, but if you're not able to get a better teamfight engagement, or by the way, like a lot of key ults down for Abraham, so I think are a little bit more reliant on ults for their team fight. If Buff Enjoyers walk in for the fight here, it may be good, and Arzo get taken a little bit by surprise. Listic from the back, who immediately actually decides, no, I don't want to fight this. But Buffendorf is trying to be a little bit aggressive right now, where a lot of ults are off the table for Abrahams.
Take out the Venator.
And it's going to be an earn steal from Cosmetical, who's just going to walk over and turn that one in. Elsewhere, break, a little bit under the gun. Arzo goes down, and Tani Lasan swapping things up. And Buffendorf is kind of making the most of this now, Jason.
Big kill into Arzo too, man. The 30k soul Venator not in this fight anymore. Drake's able to shove them back. They actually retreat to collapse on the overextended players that have Abrahams.
It's only an affliction on the Zergy, and Zergy dies for it, but the rest of the fight, Buffendorf's looking way healthier here. Empty Dreams is in trouble. Just getting carved to pieces. Goes down the Vrake, who simply cannot die in this fight, Jason.
Gosh, Killing Blow is still there for Together, but I don't think anyone's really low enough to use it to actually go for the escape here. Buffendorf's are on the aggression. They also have an Unstable Rift to take on the right-hand side of the map. Mid-boss is too far away. They clean up tasks. Maybe who's going to take the Rift here? And they have the potential to take down some walkers, man. They clean up the right-hand lane. They can get mid-walker after getting the left-hand side earlier on from Cosmetical. And that lead of, 14k, it's going to be cut down to, less than 5.
That's what I was saying, Jason. Look at this. This is all like pretty playable for Buffendorf, especially in that instance where they had this window where Abrahams was down a lot of ults. And I mean, look, Affliction comes up late to the fight, and it's a 1-kill Affliction, but the solo Afflictions at Empty Dreams it's a little bit baffling. I mean, again, not every Affliction is going to be a good one, but it's just been, the second time we've seen Empty Dreams on it today, and it hasn't been the most impressive for the priority that, Pocket is otherwise getting. But, speaking about Men in Black clear, Together, getting down to business, the invasion is quelled.
Giving them the belt. But I think that fight, though, beyond the one-man Affliction, I think Arzo dying pretty quickly to Zergy and co. I think that was a pretty pivotal point of that fight, too, because you're taking down such consistent damage in these fights. And the most farm player in the game. Zergy's been able to catch up at 30k. Vrake has also caught up quite a bit at 29k. The two, I guess, Hitman Cosmetical at 29k, both highest value players on the team. Can we actually take a look at the net worth really quickly, just to make it more visible and more easy to explain or easy to visually see? 3 players basically at a Buffendorf is in the top 5 right now.
I mean, the trend of the game has been distinctly in favor of Buffendorf's. I think in raw team fighting power, unless a big Affliction comes through, Buffendorf's have the better team fight, especially now that it's evened up. And yeah, for Abrahams, they're in a really precarious position, especially because, again, I think you can make the argument that Calco does tail off a little bit as you go later into the game. So even off a comp versus comp, Vindicta does too, arguably, but between the two, I'd rather have the Buffendorf's comp in the situation here. The only, big wild cards are, can Tass land a big pick before a fight? A little bit better pick power for Abrahams. And how many people does Empty Dreams hit with an Affliction?
Well, I think he's averaging 1 right now, because I have to also include the 0-man Afflictions that we've seen.
Have we seen a 2-man Affliction this game? If you go by that metric, it may be like a 0.8.
Yeah, I think we've only had 1-man Afflictions this game so far.
And a missed one. So yeah, the average would be below 1 if you ran out those metrics. But buffs up at 30 minutes. And Earn spawning at the same time. Zergy going to pick up a dose of mobility, and Arzo going to become that much harder to kill with a hit of survival. Both teams being very judicious about this next fight here, Jason. Neither team being too aggressive. I think Abraham's very afraid of this game slipping away, and
they're just baiting, man. They're looking for a catch.
All right.
Maybe they get listed. I don't know. Buffendorf's being so careful, actually going in for it now, looking for that catch that they've been setting up for. They get it onto Hoot. It's not the most ideal player to kill, to be honest, but a kill's a kill, and they do force the Earn to come back out of Vrake. Here we go, Empty Dreams. Oh my lord. He was looking for an Affliction too.
Well, Senya is lagging, is what we're being told, but that was an execution on the Hoot. The swap into just absolutely dead, but it's coming at a cost when you look at it here, because Saint not particularly healthy, maybe more of a 1-for-1. Where's Senya? So Senya was lagging. Senya is chained up and blind, and in a pretty tough situation. On the other hand, though, you have returned the shadow up. So if no other disables go in, Sanya's just going to pop return the shadow as soon as Chain Gang is off. Like, Chain Gang is going to disable it up until that point. But once Chain Gang is used, like, probably an insta-pop on return the shadow.
We got a request from chat. Chassis Larks. I'm probably saying the name completely wrong. What's a golden statue check? So we give chat what they want.
We should
see
call for it
currently
by
what
now
the buffs
anyways.
are.
I guess Cosmetical is leading for buff enjoyers. But, you know, the fight is underway.
I see that spoiled brat.
And does Sanya? Nope, Sanya is just dead. No return the shadow, able to be popped. It's actually
CT.
Saint. He may be able to get
One
away.
man affliction. One man affliction again.
It's a little bit tough, Jason. It just, the Frog's going to hit one person this game. It's Hylo-san, though, putting Arzo in a bind underneath and just gone. 3 dead from Abraham's. Buff enjoyers in the perfect spot now, Jason, to roll this win into mid-boss and fully flip the game. If we could get a look at the soul graph off this, what a tale it tells.
I see paradox.
I'm convinced that briefcase only has 1 frog in it for Empty Dreams. And that's the one affliction that we're seeing per use. Actually still going for the chase, man. They don't want to let Task get away. Even, oh, Empty Dreams runs into the fire, through the flames and back towards death. Task is dead as well. Zergy, man, coming into his own. Why did Infernus ever fall off and out of the meta, man? I swear. So insanely strong. They're going to get mid-boss. They have a 10k lead for themselves now for buff enjoyers. And 1 walker left in their sights. I don't know what to say, man. This game has just been so back and forth, but that was such a convincing fight for buff enjoyers.
Again, I just think back to the draft, and I feel like Abraham's activated the trap card where, remember we were talking about the draft and be like, hey, you could go Shiv Infernus here, and instead they pick Shiv Pocket.
I remember.
You look at how this game has transpired, genuinely think that was a big mistake out of Abraham's, the way this went down. It's like, yeah, you would have had to let Cosmetical play Pocket, but I don't know. Empty Dreams on Infernus looked awesome last game. This game, things have a little been rough, and you know, we're well past the point where things like Calico were giving you a momentum advantage, and I don't know if the Abraham's team comp is really suited to play from behind unless, you know, $1 million question, can you get a big affliction? And so far, it's been a big old 0.
Oh, don't do it.
No.
Don't do him like this. Production. Oh, this is Hoot's assassination. Okay.
Okay. Oh my God.
That
was brutal.
I'm really scared this replay is going to continue, and we're going to have the 1 man. Yeah. I felt like it was coming. Oh no. Okay.
Oh no, it's still in the middle of the replay. Okay, that was just a straight up. There was no other attempt at anyone else. That was the conscious decision.
Bro, that was 11 minutes ago. Production. What are you doing? The slander on Empty Dreams. Though you're not wrong. Oh my gosh.
I mean, they grabbed the bus and just drove over the body.
I think we're definitely under 0.8 now. CP. That's 2 0-mans, and like the rest were 1s.
Well, regardless of how we got here, buff enjoyers now working with a definitive lead. 1:30 left on their rejuve. It's gonna be spent to the soothing sounds of the unstable rift. Just letting the music play, Jason. But the music's over and the Men in Black are out. Not gonna be the highest amount of push here, but look, you still got a minute of rejuve. You might as well push with the objective, and we'll see what Abraham's has in turn. All ults are up. Is there redemption at stake, or does buff enjoyers retake the throne off this fight?
Cosmetical's pushing mid. I mean, they're being pushed on multiple base guardians here, and there's still a walker to be taken, but buff enjoyers don't care with the rejuve. They want to take these shrines, and Liz is just looking for that chain gang as an opportunity.
1 frog.
Oh man.
All right, well, Zergi's down, gets right back up. What else does Abraham's have in the tank? Tass is just going to be ripped to shreds as Ovakim gets over into the back line. Iradomini out from Arzo. Not the highest amount of targets. Gets Cosmetical a little bit low, but that could backfire with the soul exchange in the back pocket. 1 shrine already gone. 2nd shrine about to go to the wayside. Not many options for Abraham's to full defend here, but they're going to give it their own shots. Airdrop together into the frame. Immediately gets parried. An absolute disaster. Loses half his HP in the middle of the parry stun, and now it's together trying to leave the zone as Zergi finishes off Saint. The shrine about to go down, and buff enjoyers making all the right calls.
Refresh
here.
it. He's got refresher ZP.
Gets two.
He did it.
Let's push green.
It's not gonna save the shrine, Jason. Is the problem?
No.
Like, it's a little bit late in the process. And first stage patron, the Archmother, about to feel her form change, perhaps, or nah. Buff enjoyers.
Let's take out pocket.
They're taking a leave of absence here, Jason, but enjoying the overall lead that they have.
You know, I'm gonna get on my soapbox here and say, we said at the very start of the series. Oh my God, chat is being so brutal. The very start of the series, that Buff Enjoyers are one of the few teams, one of the only teams, if not the only team, who play insanely well against pockets. That they don't allow these multi-man afflictions. And you saw in that last affliction, the way they positioned themselves around that shrine to dodge the affliction to only hit one was actually really well done. And I don't want to necessarily have so much hate on Empty Dreams. I mean, okay, I won't deny there has been some misafflictions, but I will say Buff Enjoyers are that damn good at avoiding it. That is insanely hard for Empty Dreams to hit like multi-man afflictions.
Yeah, I mean, Empty Dreams may be playing the Dark Souls of pocket games here in terms of trying to get that up, but it also brings back in the question on the draft is like, why the hell would you not change the draft priority and grab the Infernus instead with game one in the back of your head? Like, this has been a nearly blow for blow replay in terms of, you know, the pocket performance from game one. So, you know, you come back to the draft and go, why? And again, yeah, Cosmetical is a good pocket. That's a, you know, an issue on the other hand, but either way, Jason, we are 34K up for Buff Enjoyers. The game in their hands. Abraham's looking for the miracle. Upside still for Abraham, still a pretty well-fed Arzo. Iridamini, a threat for Buff Enjoyers, even at this stage of the game.
Man, 32K. Crazy to see. Again, like Abraham's having like a 6 or 8K lead 7 minutes in. Like something ridiculous. Arzo as well. He also had like the 19K souls at like 14 minutes. And Buffman's just holding on, keeping that lead within reach. Eventually surpassing when it came to you know, a couple of these back-to-back big fights for Buff Enjoyers. I mean, Sergey's on 47K now. Juggernaut for Listic, Silencer for Listic as well. So if he catches on anyone with these shots, like, you're not gonna be able to get away from him. You're gonna dispel magic, but then you can't dispel magic anything else. Seems like we're just waiting for mid boss here, ZP, and then that's going to be the go time. I feel like you can almost bait it for Buff Enjoyers. Refresher, you know, is on cooldown now for Empty Dreams, though he does have one affliction. But I will say, I mean, mid boss pit is very difficult to hide away from the affliction, so maybe you don't go for a fight there.
If you're Abraham's, I think part of your game plan here is your tasks. You are locked in on the blue feet. You are searching out Hoot. That execution we saw earlier in the game, Jason, you want to repeat that if you're Abraham's.
Did you say blue feet?
Yeah, you're hunting the blue feet.
I thought I heard. Okay.
Yeah, you're hunting Vindicta. Like, you look to the sky from the angle you're seeing at, you're seeing nothing but feet. And in Taz's case, you want to swap those feet down to the rest of your team. But Hoot has to be the one you hunt here from the get-go if you're Abraham's to give yourself the 6-on-5. And you're not necessarily guaranteed to win the 6-on-5, but obviously you have way better odds given the stat differential. So, also, Miner's Kevlar being picked up for Empty Dreams. I mean, hey, you do get to use it twice with the refresher.
It's a weird side note when you're talking about Vindicta's feet. I tuned into Zergy's stream today, and you know, he modded his Mina skin. Do you know what he did to it?
Is his Mina like shoeless or something?
She's shoeless.
Okay.
The ultimate gooner, man. Oh, so funny.
Well, never show fear no matter the odds.
And never show fear in no matter of feet.
Either way, Jason, this is tense. Abraham's the championship potentially about to slip away. 250 to 222. Still options if they're able to land the pick, but for now, a bit of an opening here on the together. Obakim opening up with the blind. 2 hits here so far. Abraham's able to disengage kind of well here as the rift opens on the other side of the map. I think your Abraham's, you know, only losing airdrop, kind of okay with that exchange here so far, but see if both sides rotate in towards the rift as Saint is still flying.
You just see how quickly together realize I got to get out too. Second he noticed Listic was there, anyone else was in that vicinity, that could have been a kill. But that's the point of the game that we're at. 40 minutes in, one mistake is going to cost you this game. I mean, it's not over for Abrahams. If they do get a big affliction, if they do get Buff Enjoyers to make a mistake, they easily get back into this one, especially the Entry Dreams at 45,000. They got Spirit Burn. One thing that is scary though, again, is Zerg at 52k, just continue to build up more and more of a lead. And the rift's up, and it seems like Calico Sunday will come in for the contest, but it's just going to cost him his life unless the rest of Abrahams can get here, and they're going to be rotating on over looking for something.
Well, 99 to 99, all eyes on Empty Dreams. Hops on in, one man affliction for the first dose. We'll see how the rest of the fight breaks down. Obakim takes down Sanya together. The rift goes the way of Buff Enjoyers and Abrahams. Is there anything they can do to fight this back? 3 on 6. Big old slot of damage from Empty Dreams, but certainly not going to be enough here. Falls. And Jason, we're on the verge of a brand new champion here in EU. Buff Enjoyers. A rough start to the game, but a strong finish as Abrahams has run out of opportunities.
Empty Dreams sold his refresher, by the way, before that fight. That you can see he didn't have it up anymore. He had the Kevlar instead, I believe, and had no chance to use the affliction yet again. And they could call it Buff Enjoyers. I mean, they lost last week, but they reclaimed the throne once again and get themselves $1,000 in their pockets and put on a highlight reel, unfortunately, for Empty Dreams, or a low light reel, I should say.
Buff Enjoyers saying we don't need Pocket to win, and proving it. Both teams making adaptations. Map 3, the closest of the 3. But time where Buff Enjoyers had an eye on their win conditions. They were able to solidify, and for Abrahams, a tough pill to swallow. The game just slipping away. And yeah, we got a new champion here in EU, but you can't say EU isn't close, Jason, because week after week it just keeps going to 3.
Yeah, and honestly, that's actually great to see, because it is nice to be at a time now. We don't have one team winning 16 weeks in a row. You don't have one team winning 2-0s constantly. To have these best of 3s go the full 3 shows how close these teams really are, and a lot of it again comes down to the draft. It comes down to decisions you make there to set yourself up for success or for failure. And well, for here, Buff Enjoyers, they proved they don't care about Pocket. And maybe Abrahams need to rethink their priority on Pocket, and when he's left open, maybe they don't go for, like you mentioned before, maybe they go the Shiv and Furnace instead, keep that away from Zergy, and maybe have to play against Pocket yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that is kind of the big story of this match, where you look at the pick priority that Pocket was given and how Abrahams played with Pocket against Pocket. Oh my goodness, that getting add-ons to highlights is just brutal. But yeah, I mean, it didn't seem to be to their benefit, and Infernus probably would have worked out better for the third game. And it's something to reflect on perhaps for Abrahams looking forward into the next game. But in terms of things that kept Buff Enjoyers in the game when they were behind, Hoot had a fantastic game for me on the Vindicta. Yeah, Hoot may have been the dive target later on, but there's a period in the mid game where Hoot was a really big reason that this game just didn't fly away from Buff Enjoyers.
I'm still here. I'm just enjoying these highlights right now. This game was just so back and forth, man. The Ivy, though, unfortunately not as effective in this game as it was in the past, or in the last match, I should say. I was gonna say prior, or in the past. But it had some good moments. Like I see they're getting the kill onto Listic, but it I don't know. It just didn't have the same little effect. Whether it was they didn't have the drift on the team to fly on in with, or what, but I'm not sure why State didn't work out. I mean, obviously the easiest pickings here is the fact that Empty Dreams, like the afflictions were just not on point. They weren't able to, again, as we said before in game 1, picking Pocket that early and the effect, the result you have of picking him earlier, or the impact he has in the game, doesn't match the priority of where you put that hero in the draft. And I think that's like step 1 of the problem.
Yeah, meanwhile, I mean, for Zergy, it was just a very consistent game on Infernus. Good area denial in some of the bigger fights, difficult to take down, and I think that's also the benefit, where it's kind of why in the draft talk, I mentioned ease of execution between both teams, and generally speaking, Buff Enjoyers had a much easier to execute comp here, Jason, in terms of their win conditions. Abrahams had to play around getting big afflictions, getting big swaps in from Tass, keeping up good tempo with the Calico because the late game gets a little bit weaker, and overall, you look at some of the history of the game. Abrahams, all in all, I mean, they had an edge, and Buff Enjoyers were able to keep it close enough until finally the dam broke, and for Abrahams, there was no way back.
56,000 souls. Not even the most player damage. Goes to Arzo. I mean, that's kind of understandable. Arzo was ahead of the curve for a majority of the game when it came to souls at 48k, but Cosmetical putting up 40k. Zergily putting up 31, but again, the pressure on objectives was unmatched. And even Obikim putting up 39k. Like, this is back-to-back games out of Obikim on the Drifter, putting up some serious damage, even though he isn't really high up on the kills. I mean, he had 8 deaths as well, the most on his team. Actually, the most in the entire match, but he still put out some crazy damage the entire time. Honestly, making me rethink if I should be playing Drifter or not. And then even Vrake as well. I think Vrake had some good momentum in the beginning of the game. He helped them have a pretty solid mid lane as well.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's kind of funny on Vrake in this game where there was also this period. You talk about people that kept buff and Jors in the game. Hoot had a period of time where it's like, okay, wow, Vindicta's making plays. Vrake also had that moment in the game. I think it was around the 20-minute mark where Vrake was simply not dying, was drawing a ton of aggro, keeping things alive and creating opportunities for, you know, Zergy, Cosmetical, and Listic to clean up the fight. So it also makes picking an MVP, I think, really difficult here, because I feel like every member of Buff and Jors kind of had their moments here relative to just a single person running away with the game.
Yeah, and I think we were discussing, like, internally a couple of different names out there on who we thought should be MVP, and it's really tough because, like, obviously it's really easy to say, you know, looking at recency bias like Zergy, because he obviously did do a lot of carrying when it came to Infernus, but I think there's a lot that goes into them getting to that point to carry, or for him to carry at the end of the game. And I think a lot of that has to go to, like, the mid game tempo. I mean, look at the soul graph on the bottom. We're over, you know, 26 minutes in, probably around 27 minutes, where Abraham's consistently have the lead the entire time. But I think there's a couple players in particular that kept that lead from growing further and further on as the game progressed. Like, you see it constantly bouncing back to that neutral point.
Yep. Also, you know, a peek into the back of the house and how production runs things here. MVP may be based a little bit more on highlights, where we made a choice and got told, nah, we don't have as many highlights for that player, so go for the player that has more highlights. It's kind of the de facto tiebreaker when you never quite know who deserves an MVP. But all in all, you know, Jason, reflecting on the game before... No, we're actually going to go straight to MVP. Yeah, we're giving it to Listic. I mean, Listic created space the entire day, and look, I think if you're having a player play something like a Billy in his current draft priority, you need a good performance, and it's hard to find too much wrong with how Listic was playing it today, especially on the Billy.
I'm not gonna lie, I was really scared that they were actually gonna just troll us and do a low light reel, but I'm happy they didn't. I mean, Listic, take a look at what he's played over the course of this series, right? In game 1, he was on the Billy, 21k damage. I mean, they ended up winning that game. He went 4-6 and 14, but again, he created a lot of space, a lot of the initiations for the team to work out. Game 2, he was over on the Shiv, but that was a really rough game, right? Like, Obikim didn't have a great time. Cosmetical didn't have a good time, but he still finished off 8, 13, and 8. And had 29k damage, relatively high on the team. But this last game on Billy, it makes you wonder, why are they not prioritizing Billy more for Listic? Because he still plays a really good Listic, or a really good Billy. He does such a great job of creating focus on him, but also creating space for his team.
Well, actually, I think Listic plays a pretty bad Listic, but a pretty darn good Shiv, which is probably, like, I don't think Buff and Jors is too pressed about whether they get the Shiv or the Billy in terms of the prio, which is also why they were picking Mirage first when available, right? Like, that kind of shows to me that they don't really care which of the premium frontliners they get, because they know they can get one of the two by second pick in a lot of these cases. So that's probably some of the decision making here. And, you know, Listic, you know, yeah, put him on the Shiv, put him on the Billy. Either way, it is absolutely fine. But Jason with MVP, sorry, go ahead.
Can I say one more thing before, because it sounds like you're about to throw us to break. So I think we're technically a little bit behind schedule. I'm looking back at an Empty Dreams, and I hate to keep, like, bringing it up, because I was looking at some of those afflictions that he was throwing, and the range was very small. And I'm used to seeing affliction range a lot bigger. And I looked at the last game that we just played. He did have greater expansion, but in game 1, I didn't even notice this. He had no expansion items. He didn't get greater expansion, he didn't get mystic expansion, got nothing to help with the range. I mean, he had Cultist, which obviously gives you extra range, but that could be, like, one of the factors in hitting these afflictions, is that the range isn't big enough to catch multiple players.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it more of a you better be in the right spot at the right time, and unfortunately the execution was not there. But also, before we throw the break, actually, you know what, let's go to the schedule real quick, give people a preview of what's ahead, because there's just the EU, and coming up ahead, of course, it's going to be NA. We get one of our new looks at Get Candy, who was able to get through work in progress in the qualifiers. And yeah, some people may be wondering, where's Bird with Clock? They're doing roster changes, apparently. Gibbs and Flaws reportedly are out, and they're reforming. So Bird with Clock didn't take part in the qualifiers this week. Get Candy gets a seat at the table, but it is going to be a tough task going up against FPS Lounge, who's going to be hungry for revenge after the Lord NM-fueled defeat they suffered against Melee Creeps last week.
Yeah, and the fact is that FPS, I mean, the thing is, I really want to see how Get Candy play and how this series goes against FPS Lounge, but Melee Creeps, again, going to be down a player. I think they are beatable for sure. The fact that Dew's not there, one of the, I'd say the biggest playmaker for the team, having League fill in. Not that League isn't a good player, but it is going to be quite different not having Dew there to be used. Like, Get Candy, man, I think this is the first appearance, right? In Night Shift, like to actually make it into the Challenger match. I'm excited to see what they can show us.
Yeah, it's maybe the first for the weekly show. I know, of course, they were also in and around the Night Shift Open. They weren't on any of the broadcasted matches. They ended up getting knocked out beforehand. But yeah, it's going to be good to see them play. And guess what? If you're watching at home, all that is coming here and more in just a few minutes. NA here in Shift 46 on the way right after this.